Awesome. All right, hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. We just started our live broadcast, so you're all on Google Hangouts right now, YouTube. So for those of you that couldn't join us, they hopefully are on the Hangout, and hopefully there's some people jumping on soon. If you haven't been here before, welcome. It's a little tight. Don't mind squeezing in or letting people by as they get in. We've got a minute or two until we get started. There's pizza in the back and drinks. If you didn't get anything, if you need his restroom, it's right down the hall on the right here. So thanks for coming out to the second meeting in the Python track. Last month, we kicked off the series, and we had our friend Michael Kennedy at Talk Python to me do a quick, Scott's got a shirt on too, do a quick little interview with you guys, if you remember, and that snippet has been posted to his blog already. So there's a short interview with us, with myself and Scott, and Ike, who isn't able to be with us today. He might be on the live stream a little later. That was up on Michael's blog, on the Talk Python blog, and he's producing the podcast episode. He's going to come back and talk to us at the end of the track, and we'll have a full episode of Talk Python to me. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you, Michael, for that. What else? Oh, so then we had our homework set out to read a couple of chapters and dive into Python, and then do a handful of exercises. For whose first meeting is this? Never been to TIG ever. Cool.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Awesome.
5, 6.
Welcome. How'd you hear about us? From you. Oh, well, he brought everyone. How'd you hear about us? You're new. You came without us. Meetup. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming out. We're excited. For those of you that haven't been here, I did do a quick overview of what TIG is. Scott and Ike and I.
Ike is not here. He's in New York.
Ike is over there in the corner, but he's missing. We have all been in the San Diego area for a long time, been .NET consultants for a long time, doing user group talks and that sort of thing. And we kind of saw a need in the user group community because we felt like the user groups that you were going to, they would give you a nice broad overview and never really dive deeply into a technology. And we thought, well, that's kind of a bummer. You'd leave the user group going, well, I don't know anything about that technology that I just heard about other than the name of it. So we preferred instead to have a deeper dive on some technology. So we came up with this idea of, it really boils down to a nerd book club. Let's do a nerd book club. Let's hang out once a month. Let's all read a book together in between, hang out once a month and talk about it. That's really where it came from. So over the years, we've been doing this for, I looked the other day, I think it's been 5.5 years. I think. Gosh, it's been a long time. Yeah, I think we're going on 6 years. Time flies. We've done all over the map. We've done C#, we've done WPF, we've done SQL Server, we've done HTML, JavaScript, Angular, cross-platform mobile. We're doing Python now, so all over the map. And we take a topic, and we typically pick a book or a book and a series of web exercises, and we go through that over some amount of months. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So this track, I think, is about 6 months. Mm-hmm. So we're on really the first, month 2, but the first real content to review. We have a Meetup group now. We used to have a Google group. If you're in the Google group, we're kind of shifting away to the Meetup group instead. We're trying to centralize because the discussion board is just about as good, and it allows us to manage the actual RSVP list and stuff. That helps us with ordering pizza and that sort of thing. So if you're not on the Meetup, please sign up. If you're on the Google group and you're posting questions, if you don't mind shifting those to Meetup, that'd be better. We're checking that more frequently. I think that's about it. In general, for those of you that have been here, we really encourage questions. We kind of stand up here and teach, mentor, maybe. We tend to just facilitate the discussion. So we prefer you guys kind of talk amongst yourselves and ask questions and answer amongst yourselves. So please jump in and ask us questions if you have questions. That's the whole point of the group. We're not here to teach you a topic. We're here to more like share what we know about a topic and hear what you know about a topic. We want everybody to walk away feeling like they learned something. So please ask your questions. There's no dumb questions. We're here to answer any of it. Even if the question is, what is Python? Please ask that question too. We're open to all of that. Anything else?
No, that was a good segue, actually, the question bit.
Yeah.
We had a couple of questions from last time.
Cool. So does anybody have any questions about TIG in general, or before we dive into Python specific things? Thank you for coming out again. We hope to see you here for the next couple of months. We just moved into our offices here. So Scott, Brad, and Ike, and John, and other Scott, who was walking by doing janitorial type work, it looks like. We all work together here at Crafty Bytes. We're a software consulting company. We do project-based work in any number of technologies, and we're available for hire. So, but this is our office, so it's easier for us to have you guys come to our office than to try to. We're doing it down Del Mar, and we lost that space unfortunately. So we're glad to see you all here. We thought we'd lose most people when we shifted the location, but it's been more popular than ever. I think that's mainly because of what Michael Kennedy said last month, that the salary for Python developers is extremely high right now. So everybody wants to learn Python because it's $165,000 average a year or something for Python devs, which is pretty high. So yeah, Python's pretty hot topic right now.
All right. So last time we had a couple of questions. I was listening to the YouTube broadcast, just to check for audio glitches and quality and stuff. And I wrote down a couple of them. One was Andrew Karcher had asked, are we going to use SQL Alchemy? And at the time I had said, that's still up in the air. We're not sure yet. And the answer to that is now a definitive yes. We are going to be using SQL Alchemy. That will come in month 3, I guess. There was some other confusion related to Tickle TK at the end. I didn't hear the confusion at the time the question was asked, but when I listened to it later on the YouTube version, I heard it. And
Tickle TK is TCL TK.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about.
And someone had asked, how does that relate to Python? And I had answered, somewhat incorrectly that it's a UI framework that you can use in Python. So there is a UI framework called TK Inter, which is basically TK interop, which you can use from Python. So that part was accurate. What I sort of neglected to mention, and what confused, I think, a couple of people in listening back to it, was that TCL is actually a computer language itself, right? Well, I have to use like quotes around it. It's more of like a scripting language than a real computer language. But yeah, so that part confused people. I apologize for that. I didn't hear it at the time, heard it later. Clarify that now. I think that was the only 2 questions I wrote down from the meeting last time. Were there any other questions like about Python in general before we talk about the reading and the exercises? That's a flat out no.
No.
All right.
Everyone's mouth is full.
Yeah, that may be the case. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the reading. First, let's just get some general impressions. How many people actually read it? All 5, let's say. Okay. How many people read like most of it? Okay. All right. So, most people read it. That's good. And what did you guys think? Did you like his style of writing? Did you like the introduction? Did you like the book, or you think it sucks and we should have used something else?
I think he's thorough.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. The reason why I picked the book, I mean, we had tossed around a couple of different options, but I really like his style of writing. He mixes humor in. He makes it, so that you can get through a full dry topic on Python without, wanting to cry in the corner. So that's nice. Okay, so I guess let's just take it sort of module by module, see if people have questions on the module. I had some thoughts as well. If there are no other questions, some of the things that I liked or wrote down. And I'm not going to cover like chapter 0 getting installed or whatever. Did everybody get installed okay? Would anybody have any problems getting installed? No.
I have a random question. How many people are doing Python on Windows? Okay. If you're the few of you that aren't, what are you doing it on? What's back? Any Unix people?
Yeah.
Unix?
I'm doing it on all 3.
All 3, even better.
Yeah, thorough.
So
That's what we like.
you're
Very
the
thorough.
person for my second question. What is your editor of choice that you're using across?
I'm using PyCharm.
Oh, PyCharm. You know all 3 cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I do PHP, so it's just.
Yeah. So you use PHP Storm.
PHP Storm.
Cool. How many people were using PyCharm? Did you end up going PyCharm? Okay. And if you didn't use PyCharm, that's most of you. If you didn't use PyCharm, what'd you use?
I'm using both that and Notepad++.
Notepad++. Visual Studio. I was wondering if anybody did that. That's cool. How did that go?
It worked pretty well.
2015 or 2013?
2015.
2015. Cool. Were you able to run the unit tests in Visual Studio? Awesome.
Quick
Excellent.
question on the unit tests.
Yeah.
So on my desktop in PyCharm, I'll see the green bar when they all passed. But on my laptop, I'm only seeing, they passed, but no.
Oh, there's a filter. Let me bring that up.
Appreciate it, because I'm starting to Google it, but if you happen to know. If it's a quick answer.
Yeah, I think it's quick.
We're here for answers. It doesn't need to be quick.
Yeah.
How are we doing in the back on font? Can you guys read that?
Probably not.
You have the settings for.
Yeah.
I was born on Krypton, so.
So you're fine.
Let's see.
I think we set yours.
No, I did, but I wiped that out. Remember?
That's not what you want. You want preferences. You get preferences before you start something. Minor technical difficulties. Sorry. Someone should watch the YouTube for comments. You mind watching the YouTube?
Where?
They can't
Yeah.
speak to us. They can only chat to us. So.
Appearance. There we
On
go.
the YouTube, the questions from the crowd are hard to hear, or not, I don't know what actually being handled is all the time.
Okay, cool. We'll repeat them. Excellent.
Okay. And first you have to save as, and this is a presentation. Okay.
And then you change your size.
Yeah. And we want 16. Apply. Okay.
Probably 18.
Is
In the
that-
back, still too tiny?
My fault for sitting in the back.
Your fault for sitting in the back. We told you to get here early. We did not mention you would not be able to read the screen if you got here late, though. We neglected to mention that.
Forever. Okay, one
That one
time.
worked. There you
Okay, so parents.
go. You were there.
I was there, yeah. Okay,
Let's go 18.
18.
Fine. Good.
That should be good.
Now, the problem is still this thing, like the left-hand side over here. But okay,
Right.
let's just,
Rolled it.
yeah, so let's pick one that you guys did, anagram, right? Run. Okay, so over here, I think there is a little, now you really do need to see that. Let's see.
Control, Alt, zoom.
Alt.
Alt, your finger scroll on your mouse pad. Alt, command, zoom. Yes.
Did you have to finish the first one and the rest of them pop up? I had problems finding the bottom to start.
Oh, yeah, so you had to finish the exorcism and submit it or skip it. You'd either tell exorcism you're skipping this exercise or you have to post it and then it'll move you to the next one. The idea is they want to take you sequentially, but they give you kind of an escape hatch. If you get stuck and you just want to go to the next one, you can say exorcism skip icon and it'll skip the current one you're on and download it to the next one.
So you have to do that through the
Command line. There's like a little command line interface that explains to you how to submit exorcism exercises. They tell you how to do it, and then the skip part, it's not as obvious. You have to look on exorcism on how to do the skip. But
Is what? Oh. Okay, Alt pinch.
Get yourself in there. It might not work on there, but.
No, I need to get it in here. Yeah, I need to get in here. Okay, so
there's
sorry,
like
I'm
max
not.
level zoom.
Yeah, I'm not like. Oh, it's maybe because I'm in full screen. Is that why it's not
No,
the
it
Zoom?
totally works.
I am.
Oh,
I am Alt.
Shift Alt.
Shift Alt. I've tried all the combinations, by the way.
I don't know. That
Yeah.
exists at the OS X level.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry, we can't seem to zoom in correctly, but can you point that out? It's this guy right here. There's a small little filter-looking button.
Oh, hide past, okay.
Yeah, and I checked that one time by default as well, and I was like, what? I checked it, and then I couldn't. Where did they go? Right.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Another thing
Yeah.
here is if you right click on it and go to show statistics. If you're not doing this, this is very helpful. It actually shows the number of passed tests and failed tests.
Oh,
and which
nice,
ones.
Yeah.
nice.
So just right click and show statistics. I don't know why that's not a default.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Cool, thank you.
All right. So going back to Python, the reading, dive into Python. Any questions and or comments on the first chapter, basically your first Python program?
It's one of the better hello worlds I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually kind of liked it, even though I didn't know a lot of what it meant.
Yeah, me too. I really like the fact that he wasn't like, first let's go ahead and create a default program and let's write out hello world. Let's just dive into, see a bunch of different things at once.
I should bore you with some basic stuff. Let's skip all that. Let's skip all that and do all this stuff you have no idea.
Some people asking for more volume on YouTube.
More volume. All right. Oh, actually, maybe I can do it this way.
Can I just go gain right here?
No, that's not gain. That's volume, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's volume.
Oh, for the
headphones.
headset.
I'm going to turn you up.
Okay.
And we got one person.
Better volume. No? Yes? Gain up
Hello, hello, hello. Is there some better volume now?
here.
So that would be towards James Rust. Can you hear us better now? And Bachelor wants to know what you're using. You're using PyCharm, right?
That was PyCharm that we saw before. Okay. So going through the list here, one of the things I like about Python that came in pretty early is the optional and named arguments. That's not something you get in every language, and it's extremely helpful when you do. I use those a lot when we're talking about Booleans, right? I name it. Because if you see a call to a function and it's like function open paren true comma false comma true, you have no idea, right? You have no idea what those trues and falses and trues are doing, right? So name actually what it is you're turning on and off as you pass it in. So here they're saying a kilobyte is 1024 bytes equals true, right? They're telling you exactly what they're turning on instead of just saying, 10 comma
Quick
True,
sidebar
false.
here. Go to your Mac preferences and turn on Zoom. I figured out that. Go to accessibility. Bottom right corner.
Accessibility.
Blue dude. Zoom.
Zoom.
Use scroll gesture with modifier key.
Oh.
There you go. Now it's control scroll and it'll zoom.
Okay. And do,
That's it.
okay.
Just like Windows, like control scroll.
Now control scroll.
Nice.
Okay. That's great.
That's cool. It didn't zoom the hangout either.
So Scott?
Yeah.
In light of that, from the discussion, it seemed like if you're gonna name one of your arguments, I'm almost thinking you should name all of them. Because he did make the point that if you have them out of order and you don't name some of them, you can get into some trouble. So I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I name all of the optional arguments. I try not to have too many arguments to my methods anyway. Keep them small, but
And not that many that are optional.
and not that many that are optional, right? But if I have more than one, then yes, you definitely need to name them both so that you can figure out which one you're passing in.
If they're going to be passed as magic numbers or magic strings, like a 1 or a 0 or a true or a false, absolutely name them, because there's no way to know from the call site, what is that?
Right.
If they're going to be only passed as an object instance, it's going to be named appropriately, then maybe you don't have to name it.
Okay.
If it's going to be an object of type person, that object is probably going to be called the person.
or Brad or whatever.
Yeah, and then you don't need to name it. Then it doesn't need to say person : Brad, like that may be redundant.
Person : Brad.
It's the only definition of person, right? Obviously.
Let's see. The documentation strings, which I think most modern programming languages have a version of this, and it's normally 3 of somethings that turn them on. So it's 3 quotes in the very first thing inside of a function that turns on the doc string in Python. And so
it's nice that it's not XML.
Yeah, it is nice that it's not XML. And I don't use it so much at the method level because I like to name my methods well anyway. So I don't feel like it needs a lot of documentation there, but at the class level, at the module level, things like that sometimes need some why this thing is a class versus some other thing. What the single responsibility of this class is, what should not go in here, etc. I sometimes put that into the doc comment
The triple quotes can be used for any multi-line string.
Yes, any multi-line string. It's just that the first string inside of a function or class or module is considered the doc string for that.
It's not assigned to a variable.
Yeah.
Right, that's the other key.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just floating there, so.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
So I wasn't here last month, so I didn't get quite caught up on this. Does that mean that any string that I just hear, any string that you define is triple?
Can be triple quoted. Any string that you define can be triple quoted,
So that it can be multi.
so that it can be multi-line, and you
can also add the other quote, both of the other quote types in it.
yeah. So I can have apostrophe, don't, and I can have Scott said.
It's like the at sign
You know.
in C#, right? It's
No,
escape
no,
operator.
better than
way
the
better
at
than the at sign.
Yeah.
So so if I wanted to put a comment after, midway through my method, just to call out some complexity, is that possible using the triple?
Oh, that's interesting. Inside of a comment.
But you would just use a single line comment. Are you saying the comment's going to be multi-line?
Yeah.
Maybe, if it's like,
Then you would just use multiple single line comments, right? Which is what, hash or is it hash?
Yeah.
You just use
Yeah.
hash.
So
It's
this
really
is
just for
only
block
the
comment.
first line of a new block, essentially.
Yeah.
Or not block, but
I mean, it's kind of like how many times do you use /* in C# for block comment?
almost never.
Yeah.
So that's about how many times you use it in Python. right?
I was curious.
So according to Stack Overflow, yes, you can do that. You can just have an unassigned string floating around to be a comment.
Interesting.
Does it actually get compiled, or does it get interpreted, or just ignored as comments? Or
Yes, they are ignored.
they're ignored. Cool. All right.
543 people agree.
That's good enough for me.
Excellent.
Good enough for me.
We got some validation. All right. So then they started talking about the import search path, which is kind of hairy. I mean, I guess other languages have a similar sort of issue.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that he bring it up this early.
Yeah,
instead of
exactly.
Much later on down the line.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Felt like maybe that was a bit too much too early. Everything's an object. Excellent. Many object-oriented languages work that way.
I did have one thing about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So when you import something, how do you know, or where's like a library of what you can import? Is that in the help files, or I mean, where would you? How do you know, like,
You can have a list of the things that you've installed in a particular. So pip is the Python install package command, and you can say to pip, list the things that I have installed, and you can either list them at the global level, or you can list them. So in other words, the things that I can install, or you can list the things that I have installed locally. And there's another complication there, which is you can have a virtual environment, which he hasn't gone over yet, but there's in Python 3, this is built in. I think it's VENV is the module name. And you would say Python -m space, here, let me just try and do it. That may be easier. Oh, that's a good font.
That's for virtual environment.
Yeah, virtual environments. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
You also need to be careful too, because the project interpreter that you use in PyCharm can be different, and each one of those will actually have different available libraries if you download more than one.
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's if you missed last month, Mike Kennedy brought something up about that. Python's can be a compiled language, but out of the box is an interpreted language. But there are multiple different Python interpreters. It's not like Node, where Node's runtime is the Node.js interpreter. Which is exactly true because somebody else made another Node. But yeah, so out of the box, we said it was. What's the name of it? C5. What's the
Python.
Python. C Python. Yeah. But you could be running a different interpreter, and then the available packages would be different because of whether it can be run on that interpreter or whatever.
I think it's Python-m for module, VENV, and then you give it a directory where you want the virtual environment modules to live. So this would be like the equivalent of node underscore modules if you're using node and npm. So that can be anything.
And equivalent to the packages directory in VS, sort of.
So hold on, let me just check which Python I'm using. That's the problem.
Python 3,
Python
just like
3.
Python 3.
Oh yeah, Python 3. Oh, exit.
Control D.
Quit.
Okay, Python 3 dash m venv. So the second one is just the name of the virtual environment. Okay, cool. And now, if I look inside of there, that's where all of the modules will go. And then I could say pip. So I think you need to activate it.
Right.
Then, oh God, come on. BNB, is it bin? Activate?
Yeah. You need to source it into your shell.
Oh, that's it. So yeah. Source, BNB, bin, and then there's something in here that I have to activate. Okay. Now, yeah. So now I'm inside the virtual environment. That's the.
So step back 1 second before we go too far. Why would someone use this? Why are we going through all this craziness?
Right. So you can imagine that I might have different versions of a framework, right? That might conflict with one. Like I want to use the 2.7 version of the. That was a bad number. I'm sorry. I want to use the 2.1 version of a framework, and then another project uses the 3.1 version of a product, right? Or project or set of modules. And so I want those localized to a particular directory and environment, right? So that's what I'm doing here. I'm saying underneath this TIG directory, I now have a virtual environment set up, and any packages that I install are local to that directory. I can have a different directory called TIG2, which uses different versions of those modules. So rather than putting them in the global scope for all Python programs running on this computer, I'm putting them into this particular directory.
So the difference really is that pip's default is to install globally, right? Whereas npm, if you're using Node, its default is to install locally. NuGet installs locally. Like NuGet install goes into a local packages folder. It's available just for that Visual Studio project.
Solution.
But pip will install globally. That kind of tripped me up actually, because I was just like, pip install, where did that just go? Okay, magic, whatever, it works. And then, version conflicts, right? I was running Python 2.7 for something, did a pip install. Then I wanted to run Python 3, and then that package isn't compatible. But then I wanted the 3 version, and like, oh crap, I can't install both.
I had that problem.
Yeah, so venv solves that problem in that it says install them into this virtual environment. Like,
so now, like, if I want to install the latest version of Flask at this time,
when you have that paren venv paren, like you activate it into the virtual directory.
Right. Now
this is way more complicated than it needs to be, in my opinion. Like,
do it for PyCharm.
Ruby then?
Yeah, it's like RVM for Ruby. Yeah, it's way more complicated than need be. Like, I don't understand why pip's default doesn't just install locally. Like, why? I don't want global.
I'll be able to phone Python 4.
It really is, and even if the default is global, all they could have done is a pip-l for local, and I don't need venv and all this.
There is a pip-l, isn't there?
Can you do that without a virtual environment though?
Yeah, I think so. Wouldn't it just put them in the and then
so
you have
why
to
use
source
virtual environment? Yeah, it's
well,
like a source.
Well, it's basically like an automatically, so you don't have to type that every time. You're always in that environment, right? Like it's a
we use it on the project I'm on, and it just seems more complicated than it used to be.
So the virtual environment only affects the installs, or it affects the running? What's available at runtime?
Yeah, what's available at runtime as well.
Within the project that's in that virtual environment.
You have multiple virtual environments?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Either virtual or
global.
And how do you select the virtual environment?
You're in the directory.
He did source space. He sourced it into his shell. He basically entered into the virtual environment in the shell, so he's working within it.
Name each of the virtual environments?
Yes.
Correct. He named his venv. Might have been better to name it my virtual environment.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Virtual environment 1.
I mean, like I normally do 1 per directory, and so I always name mine venv because that's the virtual environment for this directory.
Oh, within the directory.
Yeah.
So they could be named you're saying they could be named the same thing as long as they're on disk in different places.
Yeah.
They're always named venv just on a disk. And
a different place. Yeah.
When you're about to pip install something, you want to enter into that virtual environment first so that it pip installs locally. If you didn't enter into it and you just said pip install, it would go global, which is not what you want, right? That's the overly complicated
But
step.
you can in
You
pip.
can do it, well, yeah,
You can do a dash L, like a dash local.
I don't know about that. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll look that up.
But you can do all that from PyCharm. It's a little bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
associated with-
yeah.
Then it's associated with your project, and then when you open that in PyCharm, then you're in there.
So if you're doing that, you're running your program from the command line, do you need to be in that virtual environment to run it as well, or is that just for installing modules?
I don't think you need to be in it to run it.
Well,
You have to be at least in the directory, right? Because then
Sure.
how is it going to find it otherwise?
Right.
I don't know if you have to be sourced or not.
you do,
Yeah, you do.
Why I
Well-
said you could name it.
unless you happen to have everything else installed in your global.
Oh, but then that's not doing what you think it's
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So you can't reference it by name. You reference it.
In an include in a Python script, you wouldn't reference the virtual environment by
No,
name. It
no,
would
no,
just be
yeah,
a
yeah.
slash.
You're just saying, you know,
Slash whatever.
from whatever my package name is, right? Okay.
So,
Local.
that's
yeah.
installing from there, not to there.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a little bit different. All right,
Okay, moving on.
moving on. We'll see if anyone answers.
Okay, so then we started talking about that everything's an object in Python. And
Including functions.
including functions, which is good, and also including classes, like the static classes, not class instances,
Which
but
is
the actual static classes,
Cool.
and modules. So that's another interesting thing, is that in Python, even a module itself is an object.
Which is interesting.
Yes, and can have consequences.
We'll just skip.
Or-
Man.
Time's up.
The fire marshal's
Everybody go
on us
home.
already.
Okay, so then it's funny that this is 1.6, because this is probably the
1.0.
yeah, this is probably like the number one in your face thing when you're trying to learn Python for the first time that, you know, hangs people up. If you're used to a curly based language, based, I like that.
If you're used to a non-significant white space language,
Yeah,
or
you-
white space
yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
In Python, white space matters.
and so
Which generally I get annoyed by, but Python doesn't annoy me. The only thing I don't like about this is the contortion they have to go through to introduce the colon. Like, because white space matters, I feel like the colon is really annoying because I keep forgetting it. I'm like, oh, okay, if next line, why is that not the next line of the if? I indented the
Right.
damn thing. Come on. Oh, right, that colon. Like, that's the only little contortion about white space here that annoys me.
So you
I don't know how, I wish that, like, I don't even know why. Why can't I just, it's the next line, I indent it, right? But that's the multi-line thing, but they're all in the same indent. Like, I don't understand why you need the colon there. Yeah, Danny.
So every time you go to a new line to start something new, you have to do that colon, like it.
No, it's
Start your next block.
it's only on control
yeah,
statements.
colon is introducing a block basically.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
block under control statements. So for is an if.
Control or colon, return line, tab, or yeah.
Yeah.
Which in Python, is it actually a tab or is it spaces or does it not matter?
It really doesn't matter, although you should use spaces in Python, I think, in that the recommended.
Should use spaces in life.
Get out of my office right now. Don't even start this tab
In the
versus
F-sharp
space.
world, I'm just using spaces because
Yeah, yeah.
you have to,
Yeah,
otherwise.
it's a significant white space language is spaces. Generally.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
that's
the
that's
recommended thing. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
because that is a problem, right? You use tabs, use spaces. You should just use spaces.
yeah. You can get confused if you're using,
But I use tabs. I say screw the man, and I use tabs in Python. So
but in PyCharm, won't it convert it to spaces for you?
I don't know. I don't look at the actual. I just press the tab key and I'm
Yeah,
covered.
yeah,
So then the other question is, does it matter how much indentation you give it, or is one space enough?
The level matters. So yeah, but I think if you're consistently one space, it would be enough.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're committing yourself to being one space in.
Maybe that's why you need the colon.
Because underneath the colon, it
You
doesn't
can
matter.
you can
the differing
actually
levels of
have
indentation.
yeah you could actually have different. You could actually have
But it's all part of the same block. But it wouldn't be because you could have nested ifs.
no.
and
I'm
you would need
saying
colons.
you are determining the space level, if you will, the number of spaces that are required for white space.
That's it. That's the only rough edge of the part of that white space matters here that annoys me. Every single time I did that, I got an error. Like I was like, what did I forget? The freaking colon.
Yeah, I agree.
Like every time.
But the continuation, if you have a single line if or a single line for, you can use the colon to separate the.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You could single line it, and the colon would represent is the end of the for, and then after that, the block.
What Brad is arguing, and he should really just get Guido on the line here, and we should really just duke it out, is that you only need the colon if you're doing that.
If you're only doing a single line.
Yeah.
Correct.
But if you're doing a single line and you're used to the colon, then spreading it out to a multi-line, the rules will change. So.
If you're doing a single line and you have a control statement like a for or if before it, you're probably doing something wrong. Like,
yeah, you could be.
Like, what are you doing? Right? Like,
Wow.
I don't know.
You're right, because there is a continuation character. If you want to just break in the middle of something, you have to put a backslash.
Right.
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 Yeah.
So why do you need the freaking colon? Anyways, moving on.
Well, I mean, one reason would be the single line.
They
And
just shouldn't allow that.
And the other reason would be because the user can determine the number of spaces that
Shouldn't
is
allow that either.
significant to them.
So like another significant white space language I work in recently is in Jade, the templating language for Node. They don't have any of those problems because they don't allow you to screw around with how many spaces means whatever. It's just like, nope, that's totally wrong. You need to have the correct number of spaces. And it's a tab, right? It's 4 characters or whatever. So
Well,
or
tab
2.
is chosen.
2, yeah, whatever. But they have a specific thing. And it's just like, if you want to indent, you got to indent to this level. If you don't, your page doesn't render.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
That was a can of
Python is
worms.
more flexible.
Yes, Python is more flexible.
I assume you meant to say annoying. And
To its detriment, Bradley argues.
Yes.
Feels like we really touched a nerve here.
Oh, yeah. It's just the damn colon. That's it. Just the stupid colon. If it wasn't there, I'd be totally fine with the
So
rest.
we call this condition colitis?
Colonitis.
Yeah.
All right, so the next part we talk about are exceptions, and this is one thing that I'm very happy about. Although I think really Java was the only language that introduced checked exceptions that I know of.
Yeah.
Did anybody else try that?
Some
It
of those things-
was like a failed experiment that Java was trying a whole bunch of new things, and most of them worked, and some of them didn't. And this is one of the things that didn't. And no language after Java has incorporated checked exceptions. That should tell you something.
And checked exceptions are for the underlying.
Sorry, checked exceptions are that you must declare which exceptions a block of code might raise, so that further up the line they can also be guaranteed to be caught, I guess. Right. It's like a way of trying to determine program correctness. That's one of the ways to describe it.
They've been quiet.
Hope you guys are still with us on the broadcast there.
They're all
We're up to
drunk.
13 people. Oh, they're all drunk. Yeah, we're drunk too. So that's
No problems. No problems
Yeah,
there.
we've been
We
drinking
don't
all day.
discriminate.
No clue what we're doing.
All right. So try, accept, raise. Any questions there?
Mom's the word.
This is kind of interesting, I thought. The catching of import errors.
Yeah,
So
it
this
was
is one
weird.
of the ramifications of modules being
Being an
objects.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this cool or not? I could not decide. But
I don't know either. I think it can be cool because then I could say
Because then you could fall back.
fall back.
Yeah,
right.
that was the one part where I thought this was cool. It's like, oh, modules are an object, which means they will throw exception when you execute the import on them, which means I can
The
catch
init
that
on them. Yeah.
and I can do something. Maybe that's cool. I don't know.
I think it.
Not be cool.
Why would it throw an exception as well?
Well, if it's not there, if you're trying to import a module that's not available, right? Like import this module, that code's not here, like that Python is not here.
So like, yeah, what should it do? Should it just throw like a runtime error? and
That's why I'm confused on
and
whether
then
this is
fully-
cool or not,
fully
because
crash?
in
They lost
reality, are you
They
gonna
lost
catch an
audio?
import error and actually do something to keep the program running? Like, are you really, like, I don't, maybe because I've never had the ability to do this in other languages really, but I've never thought of a scenario where I'm like, oh, absolutely, I'd be totally fine if my runtime program
Actually,
doesn't
something.
have its dependency it needs and instead has this one. Like, that seems like something that should blow up in a fire and tell everyone, like, dude, that module is missing. Are you crazy? You're about to run the bank Python without the deposit function. Like, what are you doing?
I think the next paragraph really addresses the benefit of the import because, as I said, if you had two different versions.
Yeah,
that you were gonna
sure.
import.
You could
Right.
fall back to the other one, but that's the part where in practice, would you do that? Like,
Right.
so
Like,
that's scary to me because now you have to write code that supports both versions. And
yeah,
what
it
the
almost
breaking
means
changes and-
you need a polymorphism like
Yeah.
contract for your module.
Yeah, so it reminds me of the Microsoft Extensibility Framework almost. So
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
importing stuff that may or may not be there.
Right.
And
That's okay in a plugin model. It'd be okay,
Yeah.
but a plugin model is more like I wouldn't know what I'm importing, right? Because I'm not going to write the code to import something that you write in the future that I don't know about. Like I
Yeah.
can't write an import line. Like plugin model would be
I
more
think
like
you-
there's
I think
something
you
on
can-
disk and
I think there is a-
dynamically invoke a string-based thing. Like
And you can
scoop all the files in the plugins folder and load them and then catch it. Yeah, maybe that'd be cool.
I believe the module can actually run code as you import it.
Yes,
So
exactly.
That's another.
Yeah, that's why it
doesn't-
throws.
doesn't can, it does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So anything that's not in a def is going to execute immediately.
Yeah.
And it is just executing those defs in order to create those functions and put them in your namespace.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying you just have loose Python hanging outside of a def in a module and that'll just like Java.
That'll just run.
Yeah.
Yep.
That,
And
I assume is bad Python practice.
yeah, you're supposed to put that in an init in
Yeah.
the app, in the module itself.
You're not guaranteed that.
Yeah, but yeah, it doesn't always happen that way. There was one other thing. Oh, so I think it was an episode of Talk Python to me that the guy was talking about. It was about hijacking the module loading and stuff like that. And basically, so Python gets you some of the way there for being able to support like a plugin model, and you just have to do some tweaking in order to be able to discover those modules that you want to be dynamically loaded. So
It's interesting.
I mean, I think it's a good feature as long as it's never used.
Well, I mean, so wait a minute. Let me. Okay, this is maybe a terrible idea, but could you use this to do some sort of like post-sharp like AOP? Like, can you rewrite the Python to catch the module imports and instead wrap the module that's about to be imported in a proxy, and then do like aspect like method interception?
Yeah.
That might be a cool scenario. If you need something that does mocking or method interception, that it can rig up some stuff that says, hey, when this module is imported, I'm not going to give you that module. I'm actually going to create a new module that hosts that module and then intercepts all the calls to it. That might be cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I can see that useful under testers.
you can do that in other ways, right? Using
Yeah.
decorators and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I
Maybe
agree.
it's easier to do this. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
random thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, question?
Would you use it for importing multiple versions of a third party?
Yeah, I mean, that's what his example is here, right?
Yeah, for
Try,
fallback.
try V3. If V3's not there, try V2. If V2's not there, try V1. But that means you're writing really scary code, right? Because your code has to support all three versions at that point, because you don't know which one you loaded.
Right.
Or you have to fork your code and say, if I loaded V3, run V3 code. If I loaded V2, run V2. That's just.
Yeah,
that's
but
a
they all
nightmare.
have to have a common API, as they said.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, contract.
Right. Yeah, they have to, so the rest of your code works, right? But then
Right,
those have to
right.
do all kinds of contortions to adapt to the three
Yeah.
different versions that
Yeah.
have breaking changes, and that just sounds nasty.
At that point, it's almost like,
There's no contracts.
But it's not
just,
entirely.
you write whatever the hell you want.
yeah.
I mean, it's not entirely as far out there as you might think, because you can have the same module that is pure Python versus one that actually calls out to C to do this heavy lifting.
Right.
And so you could be saying, well, if this person has the C version, I want to load that
Use
one.
that
as
one.
fast.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, performance.
Performance.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Good point.
But why not just always run the fastest? Oh yeah, because you
different,
may not
different
be there.
environments
Yeah,
might not do that.
I don't run C Python here. I only take pure Python. That could be.
yeah. Interesting.
By the way, we have a backing soundtrack provided by the dance studio next door. That's what that thumping is that you're hearing. So if you want to have dance class, you can go next door and party with them.
You have a disco in here?
Yeah.
Let's see. So then they talk about unbound variables, which this is kind of like,
Python for this one day.
yeah. This is kind of like the var in C# for those of you who are .NET people, right? It's just you can declare it and initialize it, and once it's initialized, it has that that value, right? Like
That
that's
data type.
that data type. Yes.
So is unbound the right adjective, or should it be untyped?
So things are typed in Python. They're just typed dynamically, right?
Oh, okay.
Based on value.
Based on value.
So they're typed at value bind time values. But does that mean you can take a thing, unbound it, assign it to an int, and then later on assign it to a string and it changes value? That's not the case, is it?
Yeah,
Still-
you can do
still have
that.
to cast.
Yeah, you'd have
You
to.
have to cast to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you'd have to cast to use it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, so if you're expecting a float somewhere and you have an int, you can cast it, but the behavior will still be an integer until you cast it. So
If I create an unbound variable and I set it equal to a 1, which will bound it to be an integer, and then on the next line I set it equal to a string called foo, it will do that and it will switch type to string?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because you're destroying the first one that you created and
Right.
it's creating an entire new one that has no relation except it's called the same thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's type safe, but kind of not really?
Yeah. That's a very good description.
Type safe, but kind of
In
not
fact,
really.
that's if you look it up in the reference, that's what it says. It's type safe, but kind of not really.
So weakly typed, as opposed to strong typed, right?
Yes. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's strongly typed while it has the thing, right? It's
Like
just
half-acidly typed. It's like sort of typed, kind of half-assed.
So is it type safe in the sense that I can define what kind of types I want my method to accept? And then it has to be that type?
Yeah, so you can type check after you go into the method.
yeah, but that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
So the main place you're going to run into this is with NumPy. NumPy arrays is like a super common library in Python, and those have to be all the same type of an array, or you have to use something outside of NumPy called pandas, which will then allow you to do multi-typed arrays, and you'll begin to see where the typing actually starts to bother you. But the nice thing about Python is when you're getting started, you really don't have to worry about typing at all. It figures it out for you. If you multiply an int by a float, it'll turn it into a float. And things work kind of as you'd expect. But eventually, one day, you will be burdened by the typing down the road.
Would you say that you get burned in much the same way you get burned in JavaScript, where you lose typing? Or is it more or less painful?
No, it's just different. So like the reason I use NumPy is for machine learning stuff. And when I'm trying to set things to appropriate data types for the common machine learning libraries like scikit-learn, I run into a lot of instances where I can't, I have a NumPy array of all floats and I'm bringing in integers or I'm bringing in class names or something along those lines. And then
Covariance and
Yeah.
contravariance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you're going to spend a lot of your time massaging your data to fit into that NumPy array, and because it's expecting types. But in the beginning, or probably in an MVC framework of some kind, you're probably not going to be bothered by it for a very long time, which is nice.
Will this not affect the scope of the variable if it's destroyed and recreated? Then the starting point was where it exists, or how deep down the chain of routines you're calling.
Yeah, it's a good question. If you declare something outside of a method and then redefine it inside a method, does
the scope still remain?
I mean, it can't, right? You'd have to still be able to use it, but yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what happens.
I don't know.
If it is a new variable, then it would mean the outer scope is lost. Like you then can't use it in the next method.
This is a great thing to test out.
Yeah, let's test it. Yeah, let's try to test. This is
Here's a
awesome.
piece of code to test it with.
Typically, I end up assigning variables and then not using them for anything else. So it's like I don't see it.
YouTubers, for those of you that are with us, let me know if you can hear those questions showing up kind of quiet on the mic. So if you're having a hard time hearing, put a
And
chat in.
then I say def increment.
What you should try is
Normally.
on the audio, and
And then I say
then
counter plus equal 1. Oops, counter.
I mean, you'll probably hear.
And then I need to say increment. And it's showing red here,
Unresolved reference.
but that's because I'm outside of a something.
No, well, that's,
No, that can't be global.
just run it.
Yeah, I'm running.
That's okay, but then you need to change the value of counter to be
Oh,
something.
print counter at the end.
No, let's just see what happens with this example.
It's going to explode.
You gotta output it somewhere.
And it exploded. Unbound modal. Just like Stack Overflow said.
So you can't do unbound.
So Stack Overflow says something about how like basically Python just decides that since you declared counter inside the function, that it's a new
To
variable.
his point, it's a new variable with the same
Yeah.
name, but they are
And
have no
because you use
relation.
plus equal to try and increment it,
It's what the hell you
That
can
has
do.
to be a Python 3 thing. 'Cause I think that code would have worked in 2.7.
Change your interpreter to 2.7.
try putting a new line right above the counter, right at the function inside the def,
Inside the, okay.
Yeah. and say global space counter.
It didn't find counter? I thought it was just the global.
It didn't because it's an unbound local, and
Yeah,
it's
that'll
saying,
work.
well, you're trying to,
So
because it
basically
thinks it's a
saying,
totally
I
different
want that
variable.
one.
Yeah. Like I'm
That's what we're
importing
trying to
this
figure out.
global variable now.
Yeah.
So you
That's
put it
very
inside
interesting.
the function, not outside, or
Yeah, I'm basically saying from inside the function, I'm saying I want to get a reference to this global variable called counter.
just-
And now,
To answer his question now, though, you can reassign it to a string from within that.
And then
see
the
if-
next
and then
method that
print
globals
counter
it.
at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
So
So,
print it before and after
yeah,
increment.
so do a line there after you plus equal print it, or whatever,
Okay.
before you plus
so
equal.
print counter.
And then
Oops.
increment it and print it, I guess, and then change it to a string.
Oops. And then change it to a string.
I do that outside of the function even though.
Yeah, it
Change the
doesn't,
string inside the function.
doesn't matter.
Print it outside the function.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, and then outside the function, after increment, do a print of counter. You should get 0, 1 foo, or an explosion of fiery death, one of the two.
No, I think I got 0, 1
Or
foo.
it'll be or it'll stay zero.
Yeah, 0, 1
Yeah.
foo.
So it does stay.
That's chaos.
Yeah.
That is chaos. That's the definition of horror.
Well, so this is the same as JavaScript, and I explicitly said
Yeah. like-
global.
yeah, like-
Yeah, I'm explicitly like pointing the gun at my foot.
So wait.
You know,
So,
like
but if you had taken the word global off there and just said on that line, changed it to counter equals 0, it would also work, right? Other than the outside stuff would not.
Yeah.
that would be
The last
that would
print
be
counter would be 0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's 0, 0, 1 foo 0.
Yeah.
Or something.
And then-
0
Or
1
Zero.
0.
oh, because that last one's not printed. That's why when you change it to
Why don't you assign?
right. Right, because that inner counter is a different local variable that just happens to have the same
Right.
name.
Without.
That's chaos.
No, this is good.
It's local.
That
That's
makes
good.
sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect
It's
sense.
local, except for someone would
That's
do
the
that.
entire point of functions. That's
Yeah.
what they do.
Sure, yeah, that's true.
That's
That's
the
a
whole
good point.
point of.
Yeah.
So it's non-implicit closure, right?
Yeah. A global is your explicit closure over an outer.
Yep.
Right, which is to his point, a better, making more sense from a functional perspective, hide everything inside the function.
So is there only global and local, and that's, there's no, if you have one.
Parent is what you want, something like that.
In Visual Fox, when you define a variable, and you don't declare it as private, it behaves almost like a global variable below it.
Does the first counter?
It doesn't matter.
No matter where, if you declared a var inside a method,
So if you have one
subsequent
second
methods,
second and
yeah, no, they don't have that.
That's a completely separate.
You would have to declare it outside. They have scope,
either
they have
global or
proper
local.
scope, right? Like, so inside a def, it's local, inside a block, it's local. Is that right? It's just, it's
Yeah,
block
yeah.
local too.
Yeah, yeah.
Inside an if or a for, it's local. You don't just, unlike JavaScript would introduce something into the global scope also in the same way. You just declare something randomly in a function, just assumes it's in global. This won't do that.
It works the
Yes.
same way in 2.7.
So can you review what you just proved with your code?
Yes. So we first proved that this is an error. Wait, why haven't that is an error. So counter equals 0, and then inside of a function, counter plus equals 1.
So why is that an error for anyone else who's following?
Because.
Yeah, because
It's not shown.
Out of scope.
yeah, the counter outside is not the counter inside.
How did you know, I can't see, how did you know it was an error? It tells you.
There's a
Well,
squiggly line
we
saying-
ran it before and it blew up, but there's also a red line because we're using PyCharm. But
You run it before
To
and it blows
simplify
up.
this, can you make a new variable called like target equals counter? I think that helps call it out because counter won't be set at that point, right? That's what we're saying here is that
yes,
counter is
You
not.
can't plus equals over nothing, that's the thing.
Yeah, plus
Yeah.
equals is saying go to counter and then add one to it. But when you access counter, it's
Yeah.
failing.
yeah.
Target equals
And
counter
so
plus 1.
this helps make it more clear.
And if you hover the mouse over counter, it should give you a tooltip, right?
Yeah, don't do this.
Unresolved reference counter in the tiniest font known to man.
Control zoom, man.
Point 8.
Control scroll.
That's what But that's what charm says, right?
Yeah. But if you run it, then down in
Enhance.
in the console area, it gives a real Python full error. So
Oh, now I've lost it. Oh, that was fun. I've lost the.
Okay, right. So what he was trying to do is use an unresolved local. It just happened to have the same name as a global.
Right.
The next
And
thing
now,
was global.
yeah, we fixed it by saying global counter. In other words, inside of this function increment, I want access to the counter functions global. Now it's been initialized, and now I can plus equal, no problem.
And what Jim called this is an explicit closure, right? Like it won't close over variables in an outer scope by default. You have to use the global word. You're explicitly saying, give me the one that's out in an outer scope.
And it's passing it a parameter.
No, that's not a parameter. You're just using the global keyword to say global. Go look in the global scope for something close.
you should be passing.
You
that
should
as a
be
function.
passing that to the parameter. That's the correct way to write it.
Right, because you're breaking encapsulation. Like,
Absolutely.
Exactly,
You're
yeah.
depending on magic, right?
Yeah.
Depending on magic, that's the equivalent.
You might want to pass it by reference if you want to find out if you change afterwards.
So you would just be functional. You would pass it as a parameter,
And
modify
return
it, and return it, and then
as the new thing.
all
Yeah.
good all the way through.
That's the right way. That's the functional way, which is the right way.
That and spaces.
No,
Okay.
Sensing a holy war here.
it's like a daily occurrence. It's kind of like the Crusades living here. We just like randomly maraud and kill people over things for no reason.
It's okay because of that urgent care. you
Yeah.
mentioned.
By the way, we're hiring. Anybody want to work here?
I don't know, I use Nano, is that okay? Or-
Not really. No. VI Emacs will be okay, but Vim Emacs, but Nano, forget it, dude.
All right. So next thing, case sensitive. So
Can we skip past the holy war topics?
yeah, well, it's just one after another, right? Like this is the intro stuff. We have to get this out of the way. After all the wars have died down, then we can actually start doing some actual
We
work.
can rebuild this.
So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. They're all different. All the different cases, they're different variables. Okay, then there's this weird underscore name. And you'll see that a lot of Python uses those underscore functions for built-in function names. That way they don't conflict with any of the names that you might write, right? So global, variables, for example, in Python would all have the underscore.
Special variable.
Yeah, special.
What would be a better way?
So what was the question?
What would be a better way than underscore?
Well, no, because you were saying that they were global, but they're not. I mean, they are global, but they're done that way because they are a special variable, not that it's.
Yeah. Special variables. Let's call them special variables, special functions, special all kinds of things.
built-in.
Built-ins. Yeah.
Can you change their values, or is it just read?
Some of them are read-only and some of them are changeable. This one name I think is changeable, which would be that you talk about
Well,
chaos.
that was-
That would be
I
chaos.
think that was the one thing that I
Right.
said something about.
Yeah, you can
The way
change.
I understood that was every time a module opens, it gets assigned underscore name. And the only time it equals main is if it's called by the main function. That's the only time the main and the name will be equal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I think your question was, can you set it, right? Or who asked that? Asked someone else. And I think you can, right? You can set underscore names. Look that up real quick.
Wouldn't that cause?
That would be total chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Are there any of the double underscore?
Dogs and cats living together. Right, go ahead.
Are there any of the double score variables that you would want to set or that you need to set?
Well, you have to write a double underscore init to initialize.
Yeah, but that's not setting it. I guess it is in a way, but
So in a sense, you're writing them.
yeah. So the underscore. Let's see.
So they're not special. They're just conventional.
Well, they're really so that they don't interfere with anything you can write, right? So you can write global variables, you can write class level methods, you can write module level methods, and they're really just trying to keep them separate from the ones, the ones that they know about versus the ones that you know about, right?
If you're multi-threading, you'll be writing the Dunder name comparison, the one that's up on the screen right now. You'll be writing that a lot to understand which threads you're on and things along those lines. So
Dunder name.
Dunder is like
the
common online term
I like
for
it.
For
That's
double
what
underscore.
Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Dunder name.
Dunder name.
So next month, everyone call it Dunder.
Dunder. We've learned something. Dunder
and Dunder
is Dunder. Double under. Dunder.
So, yes, you can change the name. And
Yes.
And the use case is decorators, so that they can be masquerading as
That's who they're not.
as who they're decorating.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, did you right hear that? So you can change the Dunder name, and the use case is decorators. So we haven't talked about those yet, but Brad had mentioned AOP, aspect-oriented programming, before, and that would be one way of hooking into, well, really anything, right? The name of the function, the name of a
Intercepting.
Intercepting, yeah.
You're intercepting. Someone calls it, but they're not actually calling that. They're calling this thing that's standing, masquerading in front of it, going, "Yes, I swear I'm that name." And I can do nefarious things. And,
But oftentimes helpful things.
Except bank pin. Of course I'm that function. Absolutely. Yes, on purpose. Yes.
Or it's a man in the middle helper guy.
Yeah.
It's a very handy man in the middle.
Run,
Sometimes.
push your keeper away guy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so primarily what that Dunder name is for is, as we said, if you're trying to run the module, right, you can check for this under name, and if it's main, go ahead and invoke some code that will actually trigger some interaction inside of the module itself.
So a really useful thing there is that then, since everything's already a module, you can then unit test your script, because when you load it into the unit test, it will not be main.
Yes.
And then you can just call methods on it.
Right, which we saw in the exorcism portion. Okay, sweet. That was easy. We got through the first module there. Yeah, exactly. So this one I really like. I mean, this is Python's native data types, and I think they did a lot of good things here. The only thing I'm not 100% positive on, I kind of like the JavaScript number. What do you think about that? The idea that it's just a number.
Yeah, well, I mean, the classic argument is that they picked the wrong number, though, right?
Yeah. Well, JavaScript picked the wrong number. I agree.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Can't you like upgrade as necessary, or I don't know, like
In JavaScript?
No. In general, I mean, like this language was 1991, right? Didn't we decide that last time? So can't you at that time say everything's a number, and if it has a floating point representation, I'll keep that as well?
Mm-hmm. Like Perl.
Perl does that?
Yeah, it just keeps track of what it is as part of its own internal data structure.
Yeah.
And the minute you start using it like a float, then it just updates that field to say this is a float now.
Yeah, I kind of like that. But with that one small, like, it could be a little bit better in my mind. Everything else looked pretty good to me. So
There's no explicit date time.
well, there's no included in the language date time. It's a library, right? So that is, there are other languages that do it that way.
Is a
Yeah.
language where
Well,
daytime
is-
is actually a core native type.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe some SQL-like languages, like SQL-ish languages. Otherwise, like all general programming languages, they always define it as a library.
Right.
Yeah.
My knowledge.
So if you guys couldn't hear that on the recording, he's just saying that except he's thinking SQL, he can't think of many where datetime is a fundamental type, right? Like I don't think datetime is in the C# spec. I think it's just system.datetime.
Yeah,
It's
it's its own library.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. yeah, because it's not a keyword. It's not,
Right.
yeah, there's not a lowercase datetime or whatever. Okay, so if you're coming from like JavaScript or C#, right? The true and false are uppercase, not lowercase. That was the only sort of slight difference there. They have a fraction. They have a complex number. Yeah.
Are tuples iterable?
That is a good question. I don't know. Are tuples iterable?
Are all of
A list of them is.
Well, yeah, of course it is.
What's the use case? You want to loop through all the values in the tuple and figure out which one you want?
Well, as I'm reading through its definition, the way it's worded, it makes it sound like it might be iterable, right? Like it says it's an ordered list, so basically. Find itself.
Yeah, but it has order. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yes, they are.
It's immutable by code, right?
It's an immutable list.
Holy cow.
Oh, no, it shows it right there. Tuple sub -1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the first one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Here's the second version.
And going back to datetime for a second, it is part of the standard library, so it has the same status as system.datetime. It's just you get it when you get Python.
It's just not
Not
in
a
the
fundamental type.
not a fundamental type in the language.
Yeah.
It's a standard library.
Yep.
Okay. That includes it. We've jumped all the way to tuples, but let me go back a little bit.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all
They're
right.
interesting ones.
So Booleans, okay, numbers. Oh, one of the things I liked about the numbers, where is it? There we are. I like that. So 11 divided by 2 is 5.5, but 11 div 2 is 5.
So you're defaulting to the non-integer math.
Yes, you're defaulting to precise. And if you want to lose precision, you have to specify it. And I like that it is a built into the language type difference, right? Rather than having to cast and things like that.
Is that what you meant when you said JavaScript chose the wrong number?
It shows floating point instead of decimal, I think, is the argument.
Yeah, it chose a floating point representation, which does not represent all floating point numbers.
Has
So-
rounding errors.
Yeah, that was the problem. So they have power also built in. So that oftentimes in other languages is something you have to get a library for. You'd have to use math.power or something, but they have the double asterisks. I don't know if I would have chosen double asterisks, but
Yeah, I was just gonna say
what
double
caret was taken or what the heck?
double div and then double star. You could get confused on it.
Yeah.
You could go, oh, what is double pound is multiplying.
It's
using
integer
precision.
multiplication as opposed to float multiplication.
Right.
And they're totally different. Yeah. And so it does have a fractions, but this is a library, which was interesting that they use covering it with the sort of the built-in Python things. But I guess because it is used often in scientific computing, maybe that's an important part that everybody needs to know. And then, of course, you have the math dot whatever. That's pretty standard stuff.
Was complex a native data type?
Is what a native data type?
A complex number?
It was listed there.
Yes, it is a native data type. Yes.
Can you go back up to numbers and see if they have it listed?
It didn't.
Where?
The numbers section.
It is
'Cause you
like
kinda
on
just-
number 2 numbers, right? It says integers, floats, fractions, and even
Here, there.
complex numbers.
Do they have an example of a complex number in this?
No. Integers. Yeah, no. And then we have fractions. And then we have trigonometry. We never got complex. And so numbers in a Boolean context. So that's like JavaScript, 0 is false.
Good.
Actually, and 0.0 is false. So if you put a big J or a little j after your number, you make it imaginary. And then you have your complex number.
J.
J.
Well, that's pretty complex.
Like E.
We're electrical here.
Like E for the.
Wait, does that
exponent?
signify
You know,
the I
like
in the complex number by putting the J
Yes.
there?
The J suffix comes from electrical engineering, where the variable I is usually used for the current.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
For more information, consult your local library.
Speak to your local electrician.
which apparently,
Python library.
are you an electrician?
No, I'm an engineer.
He's a double E major though, that's
Yeah.
probably why. No?
Let's see what else we've got. What wonderful things Python can teach us. So we have lists, which are not typed. As you can see here, we have, well, this one just says A, B, and then you've got various strings of different sizes, but you can also have numbers in there. And then you can slice, you can go backwards, which I really like. The last element, I always find that in, yeah, this is the syntax that you have to use in most languages. Let me zoom.
Drill scroll. Oh, that works too.
Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. So that's the syntax you have to use in, you know, most languages. Well,
Length
you
minus
generally
one.
be -1, yeah,
Sublength -1.
to get the last item. And I always find that really cumbersome. And looking at the last item in a list is something that you tend to do a decent amount of times. So I like the fact that they included it.
I don't get what I'm looking at.
So instead of length -1, you do sub
Yeah,
-1.
like this.
List.
Like, give me the last
Bracket.
last thing in the list. You'd say a list of -1.
I see. Just instead of starting from the beginning, from 0, start from.
Yeah, the end. Yeah.
It's funny they didn't use -0 instead. The first one is 0.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a good point.
Can't you specify how many you'll take from the end also?
But I think the reason
Yes.
for that, is because 0 and -0 are the same number.
Yes, right.
And so you'd be getting the first object as well.
You probably could do it.
That's a good test. We should try it. -0. Which one does it get test? It's gonna be back one of those complex imaginary numbers.
You'd have to have this -0J.
Yeah.
Yeah.
-0. Give me an imaginary number.
Just pick an element of random out of the list.
I do like later on when they talk about, you can also pop off the list.
Yeah.
That's kind of intuitive as well. I don't know if you explicitly said it, but a list is, in Python, is an array, basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a contiguous.
contiguous array, okay.
Yeah.
Is it mutable or not mutable?
It is mutable.
Mutable,
Yeah.
as opposed to the tuple is immutable.
Why did they create both data types, the tuple and the list?
The tuple is generally, immutability, right? A tuple is not a very large data structure, right? Like, you're not going to have a tuple of 5,000.
Well, you might, right? I mean, in this language, tuple is totally different than what it would be in like a .NET language.
Right.
It's totally different purposes here.
But I mean,
But to have a set of data that no one can modify can be extremely useful, especially in the terms of functional programming. Whereas a list can be modified so anyone can do whatever they want to it. So you're never guaranteed that the list you get back is the same list that you would hand back, or at least that the values in it are the same. So it's very beneficial to have both.
right. But there are other read-only type data structures for storing large numbers of values. I think of a tuple in terms of a mathematical tuple, like a collection of values representing, the dimensions or answer space of my problem, right? And
I always think of if you need to return multiple values from some calculation.
they can be used in that way. Yeah.
They're used in nouns.
Would a tuple be analogous to Java enum?
No.
No?
No.
Not, okay.
No, because enums are something that you compile in, whereas tuples are something at runtime that you create.
Okay.
What happens when you pass one of those lists as a parameter to a function? Are they by reference, or are they by value, or do you copy of it, or is it always by reference?
Reference.
So if it is a real integer, it would be by value, but if it's a list, it would be by reference.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is it like JavaScript? Is it value by reference? Is that how it's done? Value by reference? I think that is it. Hold on, let me check that out. Or you check that out. It's on my Hangouts.
The one, I don't know the answer to that question, but the one thing that's maybe more interesting about that is that when you iterate the list, it's you get a copy in memory, right? So it's by value when you're iterating a list, which means you can do something that you can't do, for instance, in C#, which is you can modify the collection during enumeration. Because when you enumerate it, it gives you a copy of that list and it enumerates over the original, and you can screw with the copy all you want without affecting the thing it's enumerating.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
The parameter passed is a reference to the object, but the reference is passed by value. It is JavaScript. The reference is passed by value.
That's C# as well.
Yeah.
If for non-value types.
So you're saying if you pass a large list, it passes all of those values into the function? Is that what you're saying?
No, the reference is passed by value.
Yeah.
The
Passes a
reference to the list.
pointer
So if you
to
go
get
all the way
value
back
of-
to the idea of it being a pointer, that pointer is copied into like a local variable. But if you change it, make that pointer point at something else within the function, you're not changing the outside where that outside pointer points.
Right.
Right.
So the
But if you
pointer-
modify the contents that it's pointing to,
Then
then
you
that
can-
affects people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's passed by reference, not by value.
It's
pointer is
the
passed
reference
by
is
value.
passed by value.
Yeah.
So the reference to the object is copied.
So you have a box, and in it you have contents.
So all the variables and functions are local. So you can with L, then L in function, you can do whatever you want with L, doesn't affect outside value of L.
But
Well, you can change what the pointer points to, but if you
but you
modify
can't
the
change L
values,
itself.
yeah, if you modify the values, you're getting those by reference.
You can change the values of a list, but you can't assign it to a new list. Yeah?
Do you do C#? Same as C#.
You can
Maybe
mutate.
that'll help you. Or JavaScript. Like they all operate in the same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Danny had a question earlier. What did you say?
Forget.
Thank you.
But I do know that references are passed by value.
We got one.
At least,
All right.
at least we hammered that one out.
Okay. Slices. Awesome. Love them.
Yeah.
Wish C# had them
Oh yeah.
routinely.
This is for getting a range out of your.
Yeah. And I also like this kind of a shorthand hackish way of just saying, make me a clone of this list. The open angle
Slice the whole
colon.
thing.
Yeah, slice the whole thing. Give me the whole thing.
It's especially cool in two-dimensional arrays. So imagine you have a table and you have columns and rows. You could say, give me the first and third column of this table for the first 5 rows, and you can do that in a shorthand that's going to be very compact.
Just like MATLAB.
Yeah.
Just like MATLAB with it.
Yeah.
It's like Fox Pro.
There's also, if you use a double colon, I don't know if they have it here, but if you use a double colon instead, you can do something like if 1:3 is going to give me every second item. And so you actually will return even and odd items. Like, so 0 would be even, 1 would be odd, or, if you go to 2.
That's interesting. That's how the range works as well. If you put the extra comma in, you get the skip parameter.
Yep.
So that's basically saying, the start, the end, the skip, which is exactly the same in range. I did not know that. That's cool.
If you pull a PyCharm, there's a real quick thing that we could do to kind of see that happen.
Sure.
Just create a new variable.
Oh God, hold on. That one? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Create a new variable.
Just call it array or something. Equals range 0, 100. And then underneath this, just say print, and then the variable, and then so let's just run that real quick just to see what it does without the square brackets.
What is the keyboard shortcut?
Shift
for-
F10.
Yes, it is. Control Shift F10. Yeah. Okay, so we got.
Did we get-
Oh no, we didn't get that. Sorry.
I had the same
Oh, man.
problem.
Function.
Well, you have to convert it to an array if you want to actually.
Yeah. So output that as should be two lists.
The square brackets.
Yeah.
No, it's just lists, parentheses.
Will that work?
array.
That will work. I think.
No, it won't.
It's a list of a range.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay,
It
so
was-
lists will work.
Yeah, lists will work.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. So now let's index that at 1::3. This give us the second item for every 3 items.
1, 4,
That's cool.
7, 10. Yeah.
The second item for every 3 items.
Yeah.
Because it's zero based.
Yes.
Yeah, it's zero based, yes.
Which clearly this is a very common thing you need to do, right? The second, every third
So
item.
you'd be surprised, but in again, machine learning, where my main Python experience is, this is extremely common to see. And especially with 2-dimensional arrays, you might split so a lot of the time you'll come up with a input, a test set, a validation set, and a training set. And the way you can do that very easily by taking thirds of each. So you'd say, give me the 0::3 rows for my training set, 1::3 rows, and then you even get stratified sampling from that. So there's all kinds of really cool stuff that you can do.
So the simpler thing that my feeble brain can understand, you said array sub : gives you evens or odds. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah. So if you do say 0:2, just try that, because that'll be the easiest one.
Sure.
The third parameter is
So
static.
Yeah, it's static. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That makes sense.
That's
Okay.
implying that there's a second parameter.
So this is every.
Yeah.
But you said you could short circuit by
We
just
can
doing
stop at
:
20.
Yeah.
or no?
No.
Okay, it can't just be :
Right.
I see. Yeah, give me That's non-inclusive.
Yeah. As is the regular one.
So
Neat.
super common when you're looking at anything to do with the NumPy. NumPy, you're going to be slicing a lot like this.
All right. Cool.
If only I
Thank
could
you, Chris.
introduce new operators in C#, I could make that work.
Yeah.
Maybe I could Roslyn something up real quick.
Maybe something fancy like a define or something, preprocessor.
Well, that's why you don't see a whole lot of machine learning libraries do very well in C#, because it's actually very hard to do stuff like this in C#.
Yeah, it takes a lot of code, a lot of ceremony to make that work.
Yeah. Let's see. So then we talk about, so this is kind of a confusing thing, or at least it confused me.
Time check real quick.
Oh, sorry.
7:22, just make sure you're moving at the right pace.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I think it'll pick up as we get closer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's actually let's cut it in. Yeah, we'll pick it up. Okay, append versus extend. Both of them take a single argument. Append is one and extend is multiple. A list. Yes. What?
That's a question about strings.
Yes.
Because if the last one Python 3 is a Unicode version, is Unicode.
Yep.
Does it mean that the strings are Unicode? And if you make a reference to the third character in the string, it may be multiple bytes if it is
So I
a
believe
string,
you,
or is a string really considered to be like a byte, a series of?
No, a string is not considered a series of bytes. They are
Go to
totally
my
different.
favorite explanation, which is
It was
the
a-
chapter 3.
Yeah. I mean, that's we'll hit that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Maybe we should cycle back to that, because there's a really good block in this book that has nothing to do with Python. That was about Unicode and UTF and encoding and string encoding and character encoding, what a string is, and then you explain in the
I mean,
context
yeah.
of Python what
So-
that means, which would answer your question.
And in fact, it was a drastic thing. Like, you know,
in the -1 actually, he gave a really short explanation, basically saying that they introduced a new type called bytes or something like that. So when you want the byte array, you can just do byte array. Right?
what are you talking about?
I thought it was right there in the -1 second. What's new in Python 3?
You contrasted it with Python too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, we'll get back to it when we jump
Yeah,
into
yeah,
string
we'll
encoding.
definitely
That's the
get
best
there.
explanation to answer your question, and I think that's a bigger topic we want to make sure we touch on. So
Okay, so count, index, removing. I don't know if I really like that, the del, but you know, I got over it. Versus the remove, you know, like the it felt like C++ to me, you know. I was like, God, remove at. Sorry, people at home, that I just caused an argument. Anyway, so.
What does he mean by lists never have gaps? Section at the bottom.
Oh yeah, so they can't, but you can imagine an array from another language like C++, for example, where you can null out an item in the array, right? Creating kind of like a gap. But here, when you delete an element,
they shift.
They compact.
So their positional index changes.
Yeah.
To keep the list compact.
Right. So if I have a 5-element list and I delete the third item, the other two move down. So now I have a 4-element, and there's no space where that item was that I deleted. Does that make sense?
So you can say, in that instance, you can say delete one, delete one, delete one, delete one over and over again. And it just keeps chewing through the list, right? Delete one, shift, delete one, shift, delete one, shift. And it's just,
So that's an expensive operation, basically deleting at the beginning of a list.
Because it'll shift the entire list.
So if I assign the first element and then I assign the 1000th element, I don't get all of the ones in between. It's a sparse array.
Probably get an error.
No, wait. What do you mean assign? No, we're talking about deleting. You can randomly access the elements of the list by position.
He's saying, can I just create a list and assign sub 0 and sub 1000? And those are the only two indexes that I assign to. What happens? Do I really have sub 0 and sub 1?
They'll probably be initialized with like none or nil or whatever.
I don't know how to do that.
Just do
Whoa,
it.
Just do it.
Oh, commas? You mean just putting commas?
No. You just
No,
go.
Yes, 999.
Square brackets.
Make a list.
Square brackets.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you got your list right there from.
Oh, I see what you're
0
saying. Oh, it'll expand. It even says
Now
that in
do
here.
R,
Yeah.
1000 equals
1,000
equals
equals
-1. Whatever.
whatever. 17. 42. It's definitely 42. Yes. Okay. And then I
Print
want
the whole
to
array.
print ARR of 999.
No, just print the whole thing.
Just
What's in between? We want to see what's in between.
it'll go off the
whole
screen.
array.
It'll go off the screen. So-
Yeah. I want 999. Give me 999.
We can scroll.
Horizontal.
List
So
assignment
yeah.
index out of range,
So I can't.
not allowed.
Yeah, I figured it was an error.
I didn't. That's what I said. I don't think you can do that.
Told you, Scott. Jesus.
So it doesn't allocate all the spaces.
No.
It's unlikely. It
No.
allocates the memory.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's a sparse array. It just assigns the ones that.
It's contiguous.
It's not sparse though, because you can't assign to sub 1000. You can only assign to the next index in the list. Like you tried to assign to 1000, it said
I
that
don't,
index is
even,
not
I
in
don't
the
even
list.
think you can assign to the next index. You have to just append.
Append, yeah.
Yeah. There's
You can't
a
arbitrate-
append and extend. There's not assign.
Because
Like
it's
okay,
contiguous,
even here,
right?
right? So
So if you have.
array is a list of 0 to 99, and if I at this point say 100 equals something, this is also going to blow up.
Do it.
Do it, Scott. Do it. Do it. Gary.
Bam, blew up.
And what was the error?
Same thing. List assignment index out of range.
Which I think
That's
is
an
the
index that doesn't exist in this list.
exact same behavior you would get in a C# list, right?
Right, yeah.
Yes.
So
If you tried to do it direct through the indexer, that's why you got to
Yep.
do dot add or dot append or
Yep.
something. Say allocate more space in this list and then place this item in it.
Actually, dot adds for a set. It's not.
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
In this
yes.
case, it's dot append.
Good point. Append. Yeah.
Yeah, append was for list.
Which is
Sorry.
weird. All right. Let's see what else.
Sorry, pop set.
So empty lists are false.
What was that with the pop?
Oh, pop it. Just like in JavaScript, pop will pop the last element added onto the list, so the last element off. Right. So you can build a stack using pop.
Automatically do
Yeah.
the -1 position.
The -1.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
-1.
So both remove it and return it.
Yes.
Yes. Was that the question?
Just clarification, I think.
Okay.
And that's
you can
a,
also pop with an index.
yeah, you can pop. Well,
Yeah,
so
you
there's
can
there's a slight difference, right? When you do a pop, you're taking the last one, which doesn't need to shift the list. But if you
Right.
pop an arbitrary index, you're popping and it's inherently doing a shift.
Yeah.
Because there's no gaps, right?
Yeah.
So that could be an expensive operation.
Those are
Pop
pretty
one,
good there.
pop one is an expensive
Yeah.
operation, the same as saying delete one, like shift the entire list.
Should be careful about the expensive operations because they have a number of underlying data structures around lists internally. And so if you're really interested in the computational complexity of these things, they're actually very different than you'd expect. Like if you go look at the computational complexity for pop, it's like, I think it's nothing for this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Pop 0 doesn't necessarily have to be complex, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
just move the pointer.
But
Yeah.
even like the indexers and things like that, like they maintain an array, it does all kinds of stuff in the background that makes it fast.
Right.
Yeah, underlying language.
Okay. So false. Okay. Then we get to tuples. Woo! And they work similarly to lists in that they are enumerable and you can append and remove to them. They have no
No, you
Did I
can't.
say that? I'm sorry.
You can't.
You can't append.
Yeah, they're
I'm sorry. Yes, you can't. I'm sorry. Yes, these are immutable. Right.
Right.
Sorry.
So what are they good for?
They're good for holding a set of values together. A set of immutable values
They're
together.
faster than lists because they're immutable.
That's what I heard. I don't remember where though.
Probably right there.
Makes your code safe.
Let's see. Tuples in a Boolean
Question.
context.
Well, another statement that I saw.
No, we only
earlier
take questions, not statements.
What about
Is that it's ordered. The order of your
Yeah.
tuples
Yes.
is always guaranteed to never change.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yes.
And we talked
that
about
is
range, we showed
interesting.
range.
Yeah, we showed range, but this is interesting, actually. I don't know that I hit this in the first one. This is a way of defining an enum. I should have used this in that one problem in exorcism.
So,
Which one was that? Sublist, subset, sublist, yeah, whatever that one was.
so you're saying the tuple is like a Java enum? Is that correct?
It looks like you
no.
can use it like.
You can use it like one, like it's being used here.
I get it.
But this tuple is not necessarily like a Java enum.
Okay.
Like,
It's still created at runtime, whereas an enum is compiled in. It's
This is
compiled in
not,
constant.
this is not a tuple.
Yeah,
Right.
that's just a list of values. I think
oh,
if
is
you
this a
remove-
set?
This is a list comprehension.
Yeah, even if you remove the.
No, it's got the parentheses around it, so it is a tuple.
No, that's not the only thing you need to have a tuple, according to, yeah.
It's just initializing.
It's a
seven
multivariable
variables
assignment.
To a
Oh, that's right.
range. Does range
Simply
come
that
back
gets
as a
a
tuple?
Yes. Each one of those is a variable that's inside the tuple, right?
Yeah.
So each one is getting that value from range. It's multiple assignments.
Yeah, it's multiple
Yeah.
assignment, but it's using the tuple syntax to assign it.
Yes.
Taking the result of range 7 and applying it to each one of them sequentially.
Which brings us to a set.
But the
Sorry.
tuple, I believe, is filled with variables.
The tuple is filled with variables.
Yeah,
That one is.
this one is filled with variables.
Well, they'll.
Which are immutable. is what
While
you're
you
Well,
could
immutable
not, I mean, you're
variables.
throwing the tuple away on the first line, right? It's ephemeral in order to do the assignment to these variables. You're keeping the references to the variables, but the tuple itself goes away.
So you get
garbage
mutable
collector.
variables.
Right.
And you end up with mutable variables.
Because you didn't store the tuple to
Right.
anything on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, could you do tuple equals that equals range and hang on to the tuple?
In some languages you can. I haven't tried it. I don't.
Yeah, you could do that, I bet, right?
Does that
Let's do it.
structure work? Equals, does it pass?
We'll find out.
Yes, is my bet. Live, very nervous.
We have money on it?
In front of a YouTube audience.
We have the post.
We have, what we have is
post-meeting beers on this is what
sorry.
we have. I just had to make the bet as much as possible because I want to get at least 4 beers out of it.
Okay.
Okay, so then tuple equals it. Yeah, top equals.
And then,
But now, yeah, and then modify, and then say Monday equals Tuesday or something, like modify Monday, right? Like, to show that it's mutable. Monday equals.
We'll find out.
Yeah, sure. Monday equals Friday, that's fine. Oh, you gotta comment out your
Sorry.
program code.
Yeah.
Comment that whole block out so we don't get that printed.
No, there's no more, oh yeah, there is.
No, we save it for
Posterity.
posterity, thank you. GitHub just.
Historians will want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it equal that? Yes,
Type
okay.
on historian.
And then, there we go. No, more like psychologists.
But you're
It's
not-
like, print tup
It's a
range of 0,
it's a
7.
range.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So print list to like that.
Range 0.
That's what it did before we made it to a list.
Yeah.
All right, now print Monday though after you do Monday.
And try to modify to something.
Yeah, and then print the whole thing and that'd be interesting too.
Yeah,
Tup?
yeah.
Yep.
Print list tup again.
Should still be 0.
Yep. So that thing is immutable, but those things inside there are popping out and being mutable.
Yeah.
Well, you're passing in the value of those things
Right.
into the tuple that then gets returned out of that state.
Yeah.
Right,
But so you cannot rely on it the way you would rely on a Java enum. right? You can program with it, but you can't say this will always be that.
Right.
Yeah.
Aren't you just declaring a variable common set only there?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. You're just using
Well, we're
tuple
doing two
assignment.
things.
Yeah, he's like,
We're declaring a set of 7 variables and a tuple, an immutable tuple.
but without the two peoples part, you've got a set of 7
Two peoples?
variables. Two peoples.
You can tell he's been drinking, actually.
All day. You get a set of 7 variables that get assigned using tuple assignment, right? So range, like Jim's point said, there's a tuple involved in that process, but it goes away immediately, and you just have variables called Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you can modify those variables. If you add TUP equals to the left side, you then hang on to that tuple that would have otherwise gotten thrown away.
Can you print Monday before you assign it?
Yes, I certainly can.
Oleg, you're saying it's not a tuple?
Yes, you didn't capture the tuple. You remember it printed the range as a.
Right, you captured a range.
So Python just, by default, Python prints something that you can use to recreate the logic. So
he's saying that's not actually a tuple we're capturing.
Are those square brackets or?
Well, those are square brackets because we've listed it in order to print it.
Yeah.
But it is, right? Yeah. Type, what is that again? TYP.
There you go. Tab.
Did you see the dark yellow highlight that ReSharper was giving you before you printed Monday?
Don't do this filthiness, is that what it would say?
Yeah, I think so. No, I think what happened was it redefined.
Oh, it's a range.
It's a
variable
range.
called
Range.
Monday.
Interesting.
It was immutable, but you overrode it.
It would be like
You
top
changed
add
its
Monday
type.
equals
So
5.
so delete
But it's,
the print Monday,
yeah.
the first print Monday, and then see how PyCharm gives
Cover
you
that, what is it telling you?
a yellow there. What's that error?
Stay. Redeclared Monday.
There we go.
No,
But
well,
still leave-
no, because all it's saying is you're redefining it and you never used it. That's what that tooltip is saying. It's not complaining about it being immutable. It's saying you're redefining this and you
But-
never used it earlier.
But even if you did that in any other case, you'd just be overriding the value that's there and losing it.
But in
So-
terms of
Yeah, I don't have
correctness, the fact that it lets you redefine it is still leads you to the same
It's just a
problems of
number.
correctness. If you think of this as a Java enum, whereas a C# enum, right?
Yeah.
They're not constants.
And to Oleg's point, that's not actually a tuple we got back. We're getting a range.
That is weird.
There are no immutable constants in Python, are there?
There are no constants in Python, and if you Stack Overflow that, you will get people saying, "Why are you such a shitty programmer?"
Hey, G show or something.
Not even close, man.
The tuple itself is immutable, but the variables that you're using in the tuple, of course, then are variable.
Yeah.
Right, they are variable.
Yeah.
If you have a handle to the variables outside of the
Yeah.
context of the tuple. In this case, you do. Right?
And this is disturbing to me.
There's no way to capture that tuple, right? Range is using like an assignment syntax trick there, but you're not getting a tuple.
Yeah, you're not actually doing it with the tuple. That's just syntactic sugar basically.
Right. That tuple is not actually ephemeral at runtime. I think it's just syntactic sugar. Python's not actually creating a tuple there.
What Oleg was saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's not doing that. It's doing a weird assignment trick.
If you get to some point where you needed a tuple, then Python would make one for you out of that range.
So result
Right.
is actually.
All right.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep
Yeah,
moving.
yeah.
740. Natives are getting restless.
All right. Sets.
Curly
Let's
braces,
see.
just like in that.
Curly braces.
So working.
Yep.
Doesn't work.
Unordered.
Unordered.
Remove the
Right. No duplicates.
Unique, yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
And then.
Okay, I think that was all good. Removing, it's all good.
Defining a dictionary.
Yeah, this was interesting. I think the pop on a set
Picks one at
picks
random.
one at random.
Well, since they're unordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the last one? Who knows?
But I just don't know why they would have a pop on a set if it's unordered.
Just so
Like,
you could.
Consistency.
Just dangerousness.
pull
Yeah.
them
It's
out.
just consistency with
Yeah.
lists.
Give me something.
That's for your lotto simulator.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a random content. Yeah.
Well, it's not random, it's arbitrary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There is an algorithm behind it. It's just, okay. So sets give you the union, intersection, difference, symmetric difference, is subset, is superset. Remember those later. Let's see, what else?
So the concept of a set is that all of the elements are interchangeable.
Yes, unordered and unique. Yeah, can't put into, yep. And then of course the dictionary, which are key value pairs. Let's see. There's something I wanted to cover here, but I don't remember what it was.
Dictionaries are hyper efficient. Like they're hashed and they can be huge, and they're like, that's why it's like a default data type, because they have a lot of C and C++ running in the background, making them super efficient.
Okay.
The key doesn't
Can
use
I-
them often.
Can I like stop sharing, shell out, and then come back? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
I'll just share everything. All right. So
Pull back the curtain.
Yeah,
Don't
pulling
move the
back.
agenda.
No, that's fine.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yes, dictionaries, right. So I remember you can use get.
What are you tempted to
I'm
do?
trying to zoom.
Besides rub.
Slowly, eventually.
Yes. It's already on.
Type
You don't need to
equation
turn
here.
it on anymore. I think it's fine.
All right. Now I can't zoom. I don't know why I can't zoom.
Control. Control
Control.
modifier key.
Woo! Can I pan now?
Yeah, just move your mouse down
Yes.
or scroll. Just scroll it up.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so
It's advanced stuff.
the dictionary. So there's a question of, is the thing in the list prior to getting it? And by default, Python will throw if it's not. So if you say, I want to access an element by this key, and that key is not in the dictionary, it will throw. And so the follow-up question should be, how do I get something that doesn't throw? And there's a get operator where it will return none, and there's an overload of get, which will allow you to pass in the default. And there's a set as well, right? Like
There's a default.
default set or something like that.
There's default dictionary where you can just say, I always want the default to be like
Yes.
empty list or empty
Yeah.
set or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So the keys are of the same type?
I'm sorry?
Keys are of the same type, or they could be different?
They could be different.
And they can be any data type.
Yeah. Oh, can they be any data type? They can't be they have to be primitive types. They can't be person, I don't think, right?
They can't be mutable,
They can't be mutable, okay,
So it could be a tuple,
but not a list.
but not a list.
If your dictionary's keys are tuple. Oh, God.
I'm sure Dan has a really good use case for it in F sharp.
Yeah.
You can create a list from a dictionary, right?
Yeah, you can like enumerate it. There's like a
Enumerate.
enumerate function or something that will bust it out in key value pairs.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we should show exorcism code for this.
Okay,
Comprehensions, to get a little into that instead of just
Yeah.
scrubbing the book.
good idea, good idea. Okay, so we'll switch over at this point to the
Did we take a poll on who
exorcism.
did all the exorcisms?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Why don't you do that?
Who
right
did
now?
all of the exorcisms and all the ones we told you to do for this month, not all the Python.
We know you only did Hello World, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I just pretty.
So that was.
So sorry, do that again. Okay, like order of you. Okay, for those of you that didn't do it, was it trouble with exorcism that you had? Yeah, trouble.
In one case, yeah.
And that was just that you couldn't submit or you didn't know how to submit, basically. Yeah. Okay. And then the other ones just were they too hard? Anybody get stuck on them, or you just
Well, I
didn't have
got
the
stuck on
time?
the second. I mean, I got through the Hello World. I got the second one, the leap. I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't run.
Okay.
One thing that really aggravated me on a lot of these was I felt that in many cases they were not particularly clear about what they wanted. They just sort of generally talked about something.
See, that's one of the things I liked.
So to that.
I mean, like I can see that, but on several of them, like on the Bob one or whatever, I was stuck on that one for a long time.
Oh, that was
because,
a tough one.
well, just because they had a very, very specific idea of what these words meant. And if you didn't and if you had a slightly different interpretation of what,
So,
angry
yeah,
was.
I think I know why they did that though, because if they give you the rules for what you're supposed to program, then you're not going to do it test driven. So if you do tests
Right,
of all the things
right.
that you want, then you have to figure out the rules and solve it. Otherwise, you would have written everything and then
Yeah,
run
plus
tests.
you'd end up with everybody having basically an identical implementation. And
I mean,
think they
but
want-
in some
they want-
cases, that's what you have anyway, because they are so specific on what their test cases are.
Yeah.
And even if you're doing test driven, then you still start with, okay, this is what we're defining.
Right.
Then I'm going to build my test cases and then test against these.
Yeah, so to
You're
that
not
end,
just handing a giant list of test cases, be like, all right, figure out what I want, be it based on these data points.
So you know what, I was flummoxed by that at first, and I finally just commented on all the unit tests except the first one.
Yeah.
And then I worked my way.
yeah, that's what I ended up doing.
Because otherwise, it's like trying to work your way back out in the haystack.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Make the first test run.
It helped me.
Yeah. I mean, like I did that on the Bob one, but then I just ended up digging myself into a hole of regular expressions, which was really fun.
Yeah, so that's why I liked the exorcism, like the general statements. I mean, like that's what you get from a customer, right?
Right, it's very realistic.
Yeah, I don't, what do you mean when you say this,
Well,
right?
yeah, but then you can ask them.
Sometimes, if you're on a very agile team, you can, but not all the time, I would say.
But then in that case, then you're the one that's writing the unit test anyway, so you can just have your own assumptions.
Right.
In this, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like you're saying it's a weird combination of you don't have access to the customer and you're taking over from some other dev.
Yeah, kind of. So like, well, yeah. So that may be more indicative of something, but that's from a teaching standpoint, that can just be kind of awkward because I'm trying to fight and figure out not only how to do it, but what it is that
they actually want. Yeah,
I
agree.
I think also there's a couple benefits. One is, like I said, you don't always end up with the same solution, and you have to kind of think about it. Also, that there is no right answer to exorcism other than passing tests.
True.
So any implementation that makes the test pass, is fine, and then you get the nits and the people can comment and stuff. So that's cool. The third part of it also is that it's open source, and you can provide feedback. So there's Katrina has asked us for feedback on lesson quality. Like, hey, since you guys are all going through Python, help me out. Like, do some of these are they just crappy? Should we replace them? Is there a better way to do them? So if you have feedback, go under her GitHub and give her feedback for sure.
I was just gonna say, at work, we're using Stash for code review, and so I like the fact that with the nitpicking, in essence, it's peer and it's code review, or learning from others who have been ahead of you before.
The only downside is I got a few nits on that should have one space instead of two. I'm like,
Come on.
okay, fine. And you actually have to, what I didn't know is you have to respond to the nits. Like you can just say thanks, no thanks, but you have to respond. If you don't respond to the nit after 30 days, your code drops off the radar, so other people can't see it anymore. Because it's unreplied knitted code.
Well, that happens anyway. It's like after a certain amount of time of no activity,
Yeah, that's
it just
actually
goes
true.
away.
It won't go away. It'll close.
Yeah,
So
correct.
then you see them in your list of all your exercises at the bottom as completed, or you manage it and you move it over.
I thought you had to mark it as completed.
No, it can do it for you if it's been 30 days or something.
I don't know, because I don't know.
Yeah,
Mine's
I have
been
some
over-
old-
mine's been
actually been
over
doing
30 days.
Yeah, I have some old stuff that's got it.
Yeah, I think
then you might have
it
to-
only does that if there is a
Unresponded.
nit.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'll dig in there, but that seemed to be what I found is if it didn't respond to a nit and let it sit, then
Okay, so the first one was Hello World. I assume everybody got that. The second one was Leap. Did anyone do it?
There's actually an is leap function.
Yeah. Calendar.isLeap.
We discovered it after doing that, but yeah.
Yeah. Calendar.isLeap is a total.
Done.
Yeah. In fact, I think I did that one for in there word count, right? Was the next one. Was that right? What was the next one?
Yeah, you can do string
Word count. Yeah. And then there's a built-in thing to do that one as well, right? Word count.
There were times when I'd go look at other people's solutions to the problems, and it was like you could have only gotten that solution if you had this problem before in the past, or if you've seen this particular puzzle. And
I'm not sure about that.
Wait, say that again. So there were. Oh.
So like the anagram one, if you look at the unit test and you're doing some sort of test driven process, And then you go out and look at somebody else's and they've done it in one line of code with a return and sorted and comparing the two.
Oh, you mean that exact?
It depends on where you saw that, right? If you Googled it and just found it out in the wild, then yeah, but like, so for me, yeah, exactly. But for me, like, I think anagram, I did on one pass, but I think Ike did anagram on 2 or 3 passes. He took just a brute force approach, and then someone gave him a nit and was like, you don't have to do all that, you can do this. He went, oh, and he did it, and then you can make a revision, right? You go back and make a change and resubmit, and now you have a V2, and then people knit on V2, and you go, oh, no, and then you make a V3. So I think what I liked about it was I could see people's thinking evolve. Like, here's my, I have no idea what I'm doing solution, and then 3 versions later, here's my 1-line sorted solution that's way better.
Gotcha.
And in some cases, I had people saying, you can do this in 1 line. I said, no, like, that's less clear. I would rather do this in 3 lines because it's way more obvious.
Yeah, and I did one, they're saying you can use calendar. I think it may have been the leap. You can use calendar. I was like, yeah, I know that, but I want to do it the mathematical way, not the import way. I want to rely on less modules, right?
So I did like yours, but I did 3 separate
Yep,
lines.
so I did that. I think I did that too.
First version.
Okay.
Just submit again.
But that's where I never got through the unit test, so I couldn't get it to run right.
You might want to try that trick again. Comment out all unit tests except the one.
That's why I wrote that.
Well, you can
Actually, some of them, the problem is that it's telling you to import, like it's saying from class, import class, and not all of them do that. Some of them is just import
That's
this
true.
file, and then you don't actually create a class.
Some unit tests do have an assumption of what the name is.
Because they're thinking
that
by
was-
different people. It's open source, like it's actually.
Oh, and actually, one way of dealing with that, or one way that I
Which is open the
use,
test, right? You can see what the test expects.
Well,
But I found that sort of another annoying thing is that I had to go and find out, oh, this is what you want me to call the file.
Yeah.
Why not just give me an empty file then?
No, wait. So I have a trick for that. Rename. Is there a rename here somewhere? Come on.
Refactor,
rename.
One of the dumbest renaming.
That is ridiculous. Okay, 2. Okay, great. Now, did it change here? Good. No. Okay. So what I would do is this. I commented that out, and then I would just Alt-Enter everything.
Yes.
Create.
No.
Yeah, import from 2. Right? That's what you wanted.
I think he wants to put it local.
Yeah. Right. So I would just use Alt-Enter to create all the thing, and then I would just, at the end, comment the import back in and paste it all into the file, right?
So you write the code in the unit test file, side by side.
Yeah.
But it is learning to
how import works.
Yeah, to say, oh, I'm looking at this import statement, therefore I know the file is named anagram.
Because that import is a little weird. It took me like a little bit of like from import, like that. It's a little backwards at first. I was like, wait, what?
So there's another part of that is rather than copying and pasting it from the file that you just modified, you can actually refactor move and it will create the import for you. So you want to do that.
Sure. It'll write the import line for you.
They're like a pupil.
Yeah, I mean,
Immutable tests.
yeah, I did change the tests in a couple of places.
Just pass. Just write.
Okay, so after the
So
first
show the
2.
anagram solution since somebody asked.
No, wait, we're not on the anagram yet. Hold on, give me a second.
Ah,
Well, so we had leap, word count, RNA transcription.
Oh, that one was kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
There was a clever solution to that, I thought.
Yeah, dictionary and string join is what we've written down earlier. Let me go back. So this is RNA.
Bizarre syntax.
Yeah. Oh, and that was interesting. DNA to RNA, right?
Yeah,
That was another example of where it didn't quite match to what you thought it should be, right? You thought it should be RNA_transcription .py. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Open your solution.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. You did it the same way I did. This was clever. This took me 3 iterations, I think, to get it to this level.
Oh,
and I was like,
that's
it's so much simpler.
Wow.
So.
And the trick really was just .join is kind of a weird thing you wouldn't have thought to do.
That's
strange.
Yeah, it's just an arbitrary string join.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it has to be on an instance, like in,
Well, yeah. But the weird part for me is that you do it on a blank instance. You don't do it on the instance of the thing that you want to join.
Right.
Yeah.
In C#, it's string.join, and then you pass what you're joining
The
with
string
and what you're joining together.
Yeah, like I feel like even that makes more sense than how they did it here.
Yeah. So this is what you're
It's
joining
just a
with.
swap, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
And
is a
it's different.
join, but is really just doing a swap. Take in the thing you gave it to me and give me the other one in the
Well, no, it's
curly brace, tuple,
it's
whatever.
glue the right together with the left. Yeah, but I agree. It's because it's right and left, and we read left to right. It's weird.
It took a little while.
Yeah. And that's interesting too, right? Although I don't even need to do this, do I? I have a bug. Yeah, I could do it that way, and now use the generation. I should have used it that way.
Fired.
Yeah, and let me just make sure it still runs. Run unit tests. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I just made a huge optimization to my program there by removing the braces. But so what I was using before was a list comprehension, which is basically say the right side there is the enumerate through pulling out a variable for the thing in the iteration. And then the left side is what you want to do with that variable. So here I'm mapping the variable. And there's also an if that you can add to the end.
Yeah, and you could like chain it, you could like
Yeah.
chain it, you could have multiple fours and
Yeah,
multiple
yeah,
ifs.
yeah. You can nest them. Okay, and so nesting these things can get really hard to read. Let me just throw that out there as a sort of caveat for just going nuts on nested comprehensions.
You could like build tuples and then have things and do all sorts of cool things.
Yeah, but you can assign it or use a generator and then kind of build it that way. I think that might be a little bit easier
And
to read.
it is one of the places where they let you add the line continuation characters so you can stack them. That makes it easier to read.
Now, when you dropped the brackets, you switched from list comprehension
to generation. But do we cover generations in this time? I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm like 3 lessons ahead of you guys. I'm totally losing track of what I did in the beginning.
No, that's chapter 6.
That's chapter 6. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
to be discussed.
Yeah, to be discussed later. So right now I should leave that in. Okay, so that was RNA transcription. Do anybody want me to pull up a one that they did or something, or I mean, look at something from someone? You just need to tell me your GitHub name. No? Okay. And then we had Hamming, right? Hamming. That was cool. Oh yeah, this is great. I love this one. This is like my 4th iteration, I think, on this one, right? Yeah, zip basically allows you to enumerate 2 things at once, right? So I'm going through strand 1 and strand 2 at the same time, and here's a tuple, yeah, that I'm pulling out, and then and this is actually relying on a hack, which is that truthiness has a value of 1. So I'm summing the truths from the zipped strands. Does that make sense? Probably
What
not.
happens if you zip and you have a different number of elements?
That's a good question. I think you go through the end of both of them, but you get nothing as the
I
second
thought it
parameter.
stops at the ones that it's the same. Like
Yeah.
if one's 10 and one's 5, it stops at 5.
5?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I could be wrong, but I think that's what
I remember reading.
You can pull up mine for this. I did it slightly differently. I didn't use zip, so there's something else we can.
Well, that's how to do this, but it doesn't say what the actual value is.
Yeah.
We won't pair with the larger size. Yeah, so it stops them shorter.
Yeah.
Stops them shorter.
Pull up my exorcism for this. I did it slightly differently, mainly because there was one thing I learned from it that was cool.
Okay.
Which actually made me go back and realize that it's a feature in C# that I didn't know about, which
I can actually get to you through here, right?
Team probably, yeah. I think.
Whoops, that's not what I meant. I meant teams.
Yeah. The docs say stops when the shortest just got.
Their server was running really slow.
Okay, you are. Where are you?
Oh, see, I guess I marked mine as completed, so you can't see mine. Wait, click on my name. If you click on my name, can you get to it?
Yeah, there you
Yes.
go. Hamming.
Okay.
Yeah, you can zoom in. I used enumerate. So enumerate's cool because you get the item and the index back. It's a cool feature, right? And I went, man, that'd be cool to have in C#, and it already existed, and I just didn't know that. Like, you can actually get both in
Using in select.
select.
whatever.
Yeah, that's what I use it.
Lambda.
I go select, and I go, man, it'd be really nice if I had the counter of which one it's on right now, too.
So question.
Awesome, didn't know the lambda took a second print. Huh?
Yeah.
Where it does the same.
Yeah, it's cool. Right.
So the question from the chat room is, can you audit exercises without submitting them?
Audit? Oh, no, you can't. That's kind of the point. You can't go see other people's.
Until you submit once, but
Yeah.
you can submit incomplete.
Yep.
So
Yeah, okay, that's true. I guess the tests don't even have to pass for you to build.
No.
So you can just submit right away. If you want
Yeah.
to cheat.
if you want to cheat.
I didn't know that either.
If you're trying to learn, why is that cheating?
Well, because you're not doing it yourself, you're just going and finding the answer. Right?
More likely to remember it if you do it yourself.
Yeah, it's a muscle memory thing.
Okay.
If you just submit and then you go look at what the answer is and then just go copy and paste what they did. I mean, you could just Google the answer. Like you can just Google this stuff and find
All the
answers.
answers are on GitHub inside of Exorcism Zone Test Suite. So
Is that, yeah.
That too, so.
there you go.
Where? Get on the
On GitHub.
I'm actually surprised that she doesn't post these as private gists to my GitHub since she has it. She should. Then she just, when I submit, just update a gist. Then I'll have a whole list of them saved as gists, and I can go, here's the example. That'd be kind of cool. Since it's not easy to get from here.
The latest, you mean?
Yeah. Whatever the latest is,
Yeah.
update a gist with that, and then I'll just have it.
Well,
Yeah.
you can submit a pull request for that feature in your
Yeah.
spare time.
Okay.
Spare time.
Then we've got Gigasecond, which we skipped. The reason why I read strip is because of Bob.
Question in the back.
So would you consider these to be the best solutions or just solutions to illustrate a point?
I think it's the best solution for the individual developer, right? Like given a problem, I've iterated over this and made a solution that I'm comfortable with, it makes sense to me, and I think is the best way I could write it in Python that I'm aware of. And if I submit it and somebody gives me a nit and says, hey, you could have done this simpler, now I learn a new feature of Python that I didn't know about, and then I will take it back and I'll rewrite it.
Oh, you may
like-
rewrite it. Yeah.
I
So
may not.
I've been knitted several times where I was like, yes, I know, but I don't care. Like I knew that feature existed. Thank you for pointing that out for me. Right, but I like my version better.
And since you have to maintain it, then you'll stick with your version?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where I'm thanks, but no thanks, as Brad said earlier.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock, by the way.
Yes. Okay. So Bob, I love Bob. Yeah.
It's a tough one, yeah.
Yeah. So, I had different things for that in the beginning. I had different things for that in the beginning. This is like, Brad has different, like this one, we argued a little bit back and forth about whether it was better to say.
Oh yeah, mine is way better.
So
No, seriously.
I had
mine is
that
way better.
and he has the, oops.
Ends with.
Ends
That's way better. That's all one word, I think.
Oh, is it?
All right, yeah. I think it's the thing. So
He
much
has that.
better. So much better.
6 1 half dozen of yeah.
Well, it is mnemonic. Gotta give him credit.
Well, I mean, because like, so my thing was I used is upper, and I went, oh, is upper dot ends with. Oh, these are cool. These are just string functions I can read and make sense. -1 is cool too, but I feel like it's like someone's going to look at that for a couple seconds and go, what is that? That works?
What made you decide to use multiple ifs rather than end ifs? Oh, I'm sorry, else ifs. The style?
Because
or-
he's using a return.
I'm
so
returning.
Yeah, you're early
he's already
returning.
exiting the
Yeah.
function.
He doesn't have line numbers turned on, but
Less characters to type. Sheer, utter laziness. That's what it was.
So how is
SUL.
how is your is upper passing with the test that had all numbers in it?
Yeah, exactly. I had the full-on crazy thing there in a prior iteration, and I looked at somebody else's. I'm like, what? They're using is upper. There's no way that can work. Do it, test it, works. Crap. Okay.
So I guess I
Resubmit it.
wasn't using is upper, but I was comparing the what to what dot upper. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So that
That does not work.
Not the same.
Right,
thing.
right,
So
yeah.
upper is different from like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I can show you that actually in here. If I go to my exercises and go to my what is this one? Bob. Yeah. So check out my previous version.
Is alpha.
I mean, it was crazy, right? I was like, Jesus, this is hard. And then, I get some sort of like, I don't know if it was a nit, but I was just like, using the binoculars after I submitted, and someone else had done his upper. I'm like, that doesn't work. Yes, it does.
Can you bring up PyCharm? I had one thing here. I think this was on this one, and I'm trying to remember. So, okay, so you're doing if not what, right? After doing the strip.
If not what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did if not what without doing the strip, and it didn't work. And I went, what? And I I went to the Python terminal, like just do in Python console or just write a little thing, and it was like blank string is false. I think this is what it was. But the not didn't work. There was something very weird here.
That is not false.
An empty string is false, but that is not an empty string. That is a string that has the space.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Does that make sense, Brad?
Run this. I swear that I was doing something here.
Yeah, it's false.
No, equal false, return false.
Sorry. Yeah, it's not false. A string with a space is not false. Sorry.
I swear I had something that didn't make sense in the command line. No, I get it.
Print not what, not empty string.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the not, like the not, yeah. I wish I would have wrote it down. I did something where I was like, the not was not working, but then in the terminal it was returning false. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, you should have written it down. Because I think you probably you didn't strip and they passed in white space string and then it failed, right?
Is that if not
the
same as doing like bang?
Yes.
Yes.
Bang and other languages. And C-based languages.
That's what it was.
The bang.
Everything else is true.
Yeah.
No matter what.
In the first version, I have what.strip paren single quote space /t, and I'm saying strip tab. But you don't have to do that because it's considered like a white space character. You can just say strip all white space characters.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. And so
so when they passed you a space, you didn't strip it, and then it was non.
Yeah, I was only stripping tab characters,
right?
And it was saying no.
Perfect sense.
Yeah. Once you strip the tabs, but you have blank spaces, it's still.
We didn't do difference of squares and anagram are the last two we have.
So in the previous one, there was no issue with doing multiple returns from a function.
No, you can do that.
No, not a problem. Difference of squares and anagram, right, are the last two. Difference of squares. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I use recursion here, which some people dinged me on, and I said I was trying to use recursion. That's
conform.
No.
Resistance is futile.
I do not conform.
First understand recursion.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so I think whoever it was wanted me to use the built-in sum and range.
Sum of range. That's
right. Sum of range. Yeah.
That's probably mean.
Which is fine. I mean, but I said explicitly in my solution, I was trying to play with recursion, seeing how fast it was, etc. I even timed it. So that was that, and then anagram, right, was the last one. Which this one, this is like giving away the answer, I think, but the sorted.
Yes.
That was the key to the universe.
Yeah, exactly. My previous seven iterations or whatever.
Is Ike on our chat here? Look at Ike's first version. I'm gonna slightly embarrass him because it was awesome. It was the way you would solve it if like the only option you had was a giant sledgehammer. Just like, I'm just gonna do this repeatedly till it works. Yes. And that was the solution. I was like, hey, it worked. And then we were like, well, make this simpler, make this simpler.
I ended
anagram.
I ended up using a dictionary for the word count one. And then as soon as I saw the anagram, I'm like, oh, I'll just use the dictionary for the letter counts.
Yeah.
And went this really long route. And then
this is what I did, right?
Oh, wow.
Right? He was like trying to copy out words and then match how many they occurred. And that like and I think he actually got this one to work. But
It
It
works.
was like, holy cow, dude. And then I think he has a revision, right?
Nope.
Oh,
That
he
was
never revised it.
Yeah.
So he wrote all that, and then UTC Scott's, it's like,
You know, yeah, I can see keeping this just out of spite. It's like, I know this is
Refresh
the way, but damn it.
I know he spent a lot of time on it, and he spent a lot of, and he got it working, but he was just like, I don't know, this is like hack, and
But
then
you're never sure, I guess, because the more code you got, right?
he gave a like, this looks great. Okay.
They're supposed to be nits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can like,
give him a
yeah,
like.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a like button over there.
Yeah,
Everyone should go give Ike a like.
Yeah.
I applaud your.
Just correct like one thing though, I just forgot to lower it.
Yeah. I need 2 spaces between.
This is great.
And then it would be perfect.
I think your real name is Israel, not like change the author line, and then this looks. I applaud your effort. Yeah.
All right.
But then, but then the key to the universe is right. Just sort the letters. And then,
Right, right.
you're done.
Are you guys doing this author thing because it's a PyCharm feature?
Oh yeah, he had it in there because I think PyCharm.
Yeah,
just shoves it
PyCharm
on top of the file.
does it, and he was lazy and forgot to remove it.
Dunder author.
Dunder.
Dunder
Dunder
author.
author.
Yeah, sorry, Dunder author. We're gonna learn that.
All right.
Very good.
Okay,
let's,
So
move forward,
back
Jack.
to comprehensions. So comprehensions are kind of like a shorthand version of link, where all you're doing is a where and a select. True or false? Discuss.
We'll be back in 10 minutes. Discuss.
Comprehensions are, it's like a shorthand version of link.
Link from C# land.
Yeah, where all you're doing is a select and then a where. I mean, in C# that would be a where and then select, but those are the 2 clauses that you have in there.
You can
right?
project a new sequence.
You can project.
Or you can filter a sequence.
You can filter.
Right.
Those are the 2 options. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd have to build
They're shaking their heads.
groupings
Absolutely
and
no.
other things like that yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Out of projections.
Yeah.
Are you shaking your
like,
head
you
no
can't-
because you disagree or what?
It sounds overcomplicated. I don't know how it's explain it simpler, but
So I mean, because he used the word link and stuff, maybe, but really, the 2 things you can do in a list comprehension is take an input sequence and project a new sequence. Take an input sequence and filter it down to a smaller sequence. That's what we're saying. Those are the 2 things that are list comprehension. And so in C# link land, where is the thing that filters your source, and select is the thing that projects a new sequence.
Yeah. So this one's just with a select, right? And then the where.
Wait, go back up. Let's like explain that real quick. It's basically iterate over a list.
Yeah.
For each one of those, take it and multiply it by 2 and give me a new sequence back. Project the new sequence, which is the elements multiplied by 2.
Yeah. And then the if is over here. Oh, he's just doing an if, not a select here. But you can combine them.
Iterate
Here's
through
the
sequence.
Here's the where.
Check for these and just give me those ones back.
Yeah.
Is that pronounced glob glob or glob glob?
Ask our Python guy. I don't know.
Yeah, from Unix you'd say glob.
Glob?
Glob, glob.
Yeah.
Even though it stands for global.
Yes.
Okay,
It's global, obviously.
glob.
That's a global variable.
You should never use globals in your.
And that was cool. You can actually have dictionary comprehensions as well, right here. So you put a colon in the projection, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah.
Losing the crowd. You got a couple more things, and then we'll wrap it up.
Strings. Well, that was the stuff we were
The
talking
string.
about earlier.
Yeah, let's touch on this for a second, right?
Yeah.
If you did none of the reading, I think I posted this meetup. If you did none, or you just want to pick one, just read this section. Honestly, like it has nothing to do with Python for the first 8 paragraphs. It's just what a string is, how string encoding works, how character encoding works, and what the hell UTF-8 is, which is awesome because I'd be willing to bet that almost nobody in this room actually knows why the hell UTF-8 is there, right? Like very few people understand what the hell character coding is for. This is why most Americans write US English only programs and they never work in other languages, right? Because nobody knows. So this is one of the most brilliant explanations I've seen that just very quickly and succinctly tells you what it is, why it's here, how it works, and then how it works in Python,
like-
which is the trivial part of it. How it works.
I liked it too, because I didn't even know what that stood for.
Right.
UTF-8.
Right.
Now
I think most people
know
are like
what
that.
it is.
Yeah, most people don't know. And it's super important if you're doing any kind of string processing. If you're a database guy, you know this, right? But other than that, database people, like regular programmers, don't really know this. Is my experience. Database guys know it because they're dealing with multi-byte character sets in databases all the time.
I've read this like a couple times, at least those parts I felt were important, and I was still confused about the length. I think it's towards the end where the lengths are not what I expected, and I was staring at it for a long time trying to figure out why.
You're talking about the Python portion or the Unicode portion at the top?
I don't remember. Can you scroll up a little bit?
Because length is in the Python
Must be
portion.
a different section. Wasn't this section.
Was it length of strings you're
Yeah.
confused on in
Yeah.
Python?
In this chapter.
Right. It wouldn't be right here, like number 2 there, length
Yes,
of
so
S.
the built-in len function returns the length of the string, i.e. the number of characters. This is the same function you use to find the length of the lists, tuple, set, or dictionary. A string is like a tuple of characters.
Are you talking about
More
string,
normal looking words.
strings versus bytes?
I think it's
Page 63,
Oh,
with
internet
the- With
pages.
the backslash stuff? Is that what you were
I
talking about?
think so.
Yeah, that was
I
weird
was
too.
staring at it.
Okay, where?
Go down further to
Internet
strings versus
pages.
bytes.
Okay, strings versus bytes.
Mandaf for bytes.
Strings
Spelled out versus.
versus.
There it is.
Oh, in the
Yep.
book it's spelled out. Never mind.
Here we
Cooler
go.
version.
Yeah.
I felt stupid
Maybe
staring.
cooler
at this.
version.
Right. So the key, one of the key takeaways, which this is the part that he keeps driving into the head, but it takes a while to scroll up just a little bit. There. Bytes are bytes. Characters are an abstraction. An immutable sequence of Unicode characters is called a string. An immutable sequence of numbers between 0 and 255 is called a bytes object. I think that's what he was trying to drive home.
So this \x65 is one thing.
That's one character.
Right. So the length is A, B, C, D, and then one more.
Oh,
And does that stand for ASCII character
E.
capital A?
E.
Oh,
E.
E.
It's E.
Yeah.
A,
Oh,
B,
it
C,
does
D,
say it
E.
on
Right.
Is
Yeah, it's E.
the B at the front of that line just saying this is a byte?
Yes.
Yeah, but
It's
yeah.
because it's outside the quote.
Yeah, this is not a string. These are a set of
A
bytes.
set of bytes.
I was just staring at it, but how am I?
If you didn't have the B, it would be a string, and then /x65 would all be individual characters. Right? It would not be a special character to say interpret this as
But
a
you can
byte.
do that in a
So if
string.
you box them all, just create a box and then the last box will
Do
be
that in a string.
including those last 4 characters.
Correct.
Then
Yeah.
that it's all one character.
*x65.
Okay,
string.
no,
Like what he's about.
I think,
Yeah.
I think you saying
Here-
that.
here he
that
goes.
slash
It's
is
like
not one thing.
A,
Yeah. there you go.
B, C, D, and this is E, but it's represented with whatever that is, slash
65.
65,
X65. Well,
X, whatever.
So does it know when it sees that slash to look for?
Well, it actually turns all of these into the equivalent bytes, right? Because it's a sequence of bytes. The characters are just an abstraction. They're not,
Okay.
they're not bytes.
They
So these
all
all
have
become
something
slash
like
X.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So if that thing were
It's
without
weird.
the B, then
I-
what would
I
your
was
boxes look
staring
like?
at this for a while.
Yeah.
If that thing were without the B, then
Just use that
the
box
boxes would
X,
be,
that's fine.
there would be,
Slash.
a few more boxes here, which would be slash X 65. And this box would be gone.
If you want to see some
You
funny stuff, you should
see
keyboard in
slash
different
X
language.
65. Because those would be literal characters at that point.
Yeah.
You know. So slash has a representation, X has a representation, 6 has a representation, 5 has a representation as bytes. And instead of interpreting slash X65 as the byte that it is for the character.
So would you store the A as a Unicode character? Or the B and the C?
No, they're
No,
all
they're
stored
all
as Unicode.
Yeah, sorry.
all stored as Unicode.
What is this? Is it like whatever, like, so
So each of those.
the actual values in here are slash
Here.
X65, slash S64, X63, whatever those are, right? X62, X61. That's what's actually in these boxes, right? But if you don't put the B in front, you don't get slash X65 turns into one character. You get a slash as whatever the binary representation that is. You get an X, the binary representation.
Yeah, see, I think
a
that's
6
cool.
and a 5 as individual characters.
Yeah. *x65 though is a
It works without the B.
yeah
So I'm lying.
it's a
Okay.
curly line.
So don't
Oh,
listen.
that's weird now.
Yeah,
That's how I'm thinking.
I'm confused now by your, well, no, because the
The slash, the backslash,
Slash
you
is
go
the
backslash
escape.
T.
But if you take
Yeah,
the
yeah.
slash out, it would be X65.
Yes, that's totally true.
Now my explanation. So Take the slash out, and then I'm not lying.
So if you really want to slash, put double backslash.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, double backslash, then I'm not lying also.
Do it, run it.
But the slash creates the escape character,
The slash creates the escape character, yes.
regardless of whether it's a byte string
Apparently
or a
so,
string.
yes. I thought you had to put the B in front, but apparently you don't need to. The slash will create an escape, but a double slash will create a literal.
But so the
slash.
difference is here in Python 2, that was legal, but this was not legal. You know what I mean?
Multi-byte character.
Like a multi-byte character set. In fact, it still can't parse it. But you can have a character which is represented by more than just 255.
And that was the shift. The default in Python 2 is ASCII, and the default in Python 3 is Unicode.
And you can't create it as an escape
You read that
character,
thing.
is that what you just said?
I'm sorry?
You cannot create it as an escape character.
Not using the /x something, because you can see in Python that, or
It might understand
PyCharm.
that. Maybe PyCharm can't parse it or something.
No, I don't think so. I think the /x means the next two characters
What
are
happens if
going
you
to
run
turn. A, B, C, D, capital C, 3, 3.
So capital C is x43.
Yeah,
But try
yeah, that's what I was
something
going to
less
say.
than 256.
I mean,
Like
250.
128.
So a
Well,
more
this is-
intuitive
F.
way or more maintainable way
I mean, F,
would be to
FF
just
would
have
be the
separate
biggest.
Like
strings that you
433 wouldn't be a
concatenate
character
if you want
in
to
the
be
ASCII
explicit
table.
in your code.
I
Because
think I was
to-
just looking at
Well,
the slash as.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an
In
escape
my head,
character.
I
Why?
wasn't seeing
Whatever
how
that
this is
funky
a
character
special
is.
system.
Why?
But to jam them
Yeah,
all
that's
together right now
No,
is
I'm gonna
not
make
as
X.
Why would two
one
dots
byte,
on
it's
top of it?
split it
No, that
out
won't
into either separate.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, you can kind of think of it like, you do .NET, right? You said you did .NET. So like in C# you put /R/N/T, those are sequence
Yeah.
characters.
Wait, there has to be a multi-byte way of, oh, sorry, sure. You may
Actually,
undo.
it's like curly.
There is a way to increase the
Yeah,
size
yeah.
of the
Yeah,
bottom.
do another
Oh,
slash.
how do I do it?
Do a slash.
Anyway, let's go. We're wrapping up.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll figure that out later.
/x/x, but wouldn't that just be
No,
two characters?
/x number, /x number, because
Right.
you can only get one byte at a time. out of
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to turn it into two. I think that's going to be,
Two separate
that's going to
one-byte
be
characters.
Y umlaut capital C.
Is that why?
See?
Is it really why I'm allowed that? Okay.
No, that's-
Actually, it was
that's-
capital
that's why
3.
I'm at 3.
Yeah, hold on. What did I have before that was C?
43.
43. Yeah, there we go.
/capital U.
Okay, five minutes.
Backslash capital U.
5 minutes.
By the way, I mean, really quick.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, /U, but I chose a bad character. Let's try it again. No. No, still no.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Okay.
Codec cannot decode bytes in 4 through 9. I need a specific character. 20AC. Well, he said 1, 2, 3, 4. That's exactly what I have.
Is everything you're doing recorded and broadcast?
There you go. Lowercase. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. A, B, C, D, and
And
the artist formerly known as Prince.
No. I think it's Yiddish.
Yiddish.
Yeah,
Says
it looks
Mensch.
like Yiddish. Yeah.
All right, wrap it up. You got anything else?
Regular expression?
Yes, I do. Oh,
All right. In the next 2 minutes.
Explain what regex
Okay,
are.
so one thing I will say about Python's regular expression that is awesome
Yes.
is the long form where you can put the
Yes.
comments in it.
Yes.
That is so beautiful, I
Yeah.
cried.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually burst into tears of happiness after looking at that part.
He's a very simple man.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, why has no one else done this? I mean, this is genius.
If your regex is that long that you need in regex comments, you're already so wrong.
No, you're not so wrong. All regexes turn into that.
Yeah,
They
regexes-
start off simple, but like it's hard. It's really hard.
You just want to ensure this is an email address.
Yeah.
I think you can even do it in C# actually.
No, you cannot. Oh, I mean, you can do
Extended regex.
quote something quote
Yeah.
plus
And then wrap.
then whack
Yeah.
whack and then put the comment on the end. You know.
Okay, final thoughts, final questions, and then we'll talk about what the next assignment is. Yes.
I looked up on Google, the average salary for Python is 102, not 165. So if you want to hire anybody for 165,
Yeah. Well, no, we have to pull up
No,
what
no,
Kennedy
no.
sent us.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's-
102 was right. Yeah,
was-
yeah.
it
We're
was-
just saying it was like 65% higher than the starting salary of something.
It was very high, but what it also was that
HP is 87.
the infographic that he sent was basically showing the Python density amongst high-tech communities. So it showed Chicago, New York, Austin, Silicon Valley, San Diego, and Boston, and it was showing the Python density and I think what it was showing was the Python salary relative to the other people in that tech area, and Python was exceeding in almost all of those areas, saying if you're a Python dev in these major tech cities, you're making more money than anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's on the rise. I think a large portion of that, well, I think there's two reasons. One is Python is applicable in multiple disciplines. So you can be a computational scientist, you can be a data scientist, you can be a Python dev, and that runs the gamut. And I think there's also a big data push, right? Big data is a big hot thing, and everybody's being paid for big data, and Python's a big usage in big data. So it's maybe not so much that Python's getting paid $150,000 a year, but big data scientists are, and they happen to be using Python.
Not as nice.
So I was spending quite a bit of time looking up at different things about Python. I found this fellow who is working on a compiler, a true binary compiler of Python called Nuitka.
Called what?
Nuitka, I think that's what it's spelled.
Okay.
If you do Google search for Python compiler, and this fellow is working already for many years, and it's supposed to be Python 3.4 compatible. So I thought it would be kind of interesting, especially for those of us who do commercial products, who need to protect our source code.
What?
Needs to protect your source code. Yeah.
So you just gotta
Well,
file preference.
in the next 30 seconds, we're not going to start another holy war about protecting bytes, but you can talk to me about that after. I've got a giant opinion on protecting bits. Yeah, the answer is just don't ship your bits, and then you're fine. Okay, so any other questions, and then we'll talk about what homework is. Thank you guys for coming. By the way, there might be pizza left, so feel free to take some.
Okay,
Next
so
month.
we read through regular expressions, even though we didn't get to the regular expressions in the talk. Next month, we are doing a special thing. I'm gonna have to send this out again, but 6, 7, 7.5, 7.75, and then 8. Okay,
You're
so
skipping sections in 7 is what you're saying.
yeah, no, we're adding 2. So we're doing the Python tutorial on classes, and also the Python reference on dates.
Which are not in this book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're going to send
So
links for those.
we'll send that out, but it's basically just 7, 8, 9, and 11. No, wait, hold on. 6 through 8 and 11 plus 2 special sections outside of this thing.
6, 7, 8, 11, and 2 additional things we'll post on Meetup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
And exorcisms.
Exorcisms. This gets even more complicated. So now that we will have covered dates, we're going to go back and do gigasecond, which is actually quite trivial, but does have import for the first time because you are using dates. Does use some other interesting things. Time delta, exactly. And then Meetup, which is really fun. I really like that one.
Oh, that was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That was maybe the most fun out of all of them that I've had thus far, but it's really up there near the top.
And we'll post this on Meetup.
Yeah, we'll post all these. Okay, we wanted to keep it to 8 again. We felt like that was a good number. What do you think? Who wanted less than 8?
Well, we did only get about a quarter of the people to complete it, so that might be an indicator.
Yeah, that's true.
If we did less, would any more of you have completed it?
Or was
Be
it
honest.
just-
Be honest. You can say no. It's totally fine.
Yeah. They're being
Yes.
honest and they're not
Yes.
raising their hand.
Okay, if there was less than 8, then some of these people we would have more completions.
Okay, so if we want to go less than 8, we would say gigasecond and Meetup, because we skipped those because those were dates. Allergies, Sieve, @bash. I think
That's 6. I would stop at 6 if we were going to do less than 8, because the other 2 you want to do grade school.
I really want to do grade school. I really want to do Roman numerals too.
Yeah, so you should stop, and then we'll do those 2 the next time then. So.
Roman numerals is a fun one too.
I know it is.
All right, we're gonna do 8 then. You guys just have to do it.
We'll do 7. We'll just skip.
Skip gigasecond. 27.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll post these, but it's allergies, Sieve, @bash, grade school, Roman numerals. Done.
All right, so if you're not on the meetup, make sure you get there. That's where we're gonna post the assignment. We use the discussion group. Somebody had a question. Are you here tonight, Stuart, that had a question? No, I must have missed it. He had a question whether we could, maybe he's on the Google Talk, whether we could do like a Slack group or something, and we don't really want to do that, but apparently there might have been some problem with posting the discussion. There's two things in Meetup. One is the discussion board, and one are the comments for the individual meetings. So don't post questions to the comment section of the individual meeting because those kind of get lost. Instead, on Meetup, there's a discussions tab. Click to the discussions tab and post there, and then that's a more traditional message board type thing. So if you have questions, you have thoughts, you find this Python compiler thing, post that all to the Meetup. That's all available.
Suggestions on catching up?
Suggestions on catching up. Well, we should fix whatever your exorcism problem is. I think that will help. Let's figure out what that is, and if you're stuck on something, just post.
Well, it was actually just crashing. And so
Do you have your computer with you right now?
Yeah. We already looked at it.
Oh, you already.
Yeah, beforehand. So when exorcism crashes for you, which does happen, it tells you how to post a bug, and she's good about fixing the bugs very quickly, right? So you'll do a command called exorcism space debug, which dumps out a whole bunch of information.
Oh, cool.
And then
Most of it useless.
Yeah,
It's really just OS information.
Well, no, it has a UID that identified the request that actually crashed, so that she can look at the logs on the back end, right? That's really what you're getting is that UID. But it also tells her, was it a Windows version or a Linux version?
You're on Mac, you said?
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed, this might be it, fairly simple, is that, and I posted this on her issues, is that did you create the folder for the code before you told it to exorcism pull, or did you let exorcism create the folder? Because what I ended up doing is the very first lesson I went in and I was like, I'm just going to create a folder. This is where I'm going to put the code. I need exorcism to pull it. Okay, I'll pull it. And I created an uppercase hello world, and exorcism expects a lowercase, but in that pull, it doesn't check. And so it's like, there's one called hello world. I'll put it there. So then it all worked. And then when you go to submit, it crashes because then the submit is like, I can't find a lowercase hello world folder. It was something it was really strange, right? And so just renaming the folder to be lowercase is magic. But if you just let exorcism create the folder, it'll do the right thing.
That's why I did the same.
Yeah.
First time I spelled it wrong, so then I did it.
Right. So that might, something like that. And then we had a weird problem with Ghost
Teams.
users, but she fixed that.
Yeah.
So I had the same problem on that, and what I found out was that I changed my directory for exorcism, but I didn't change it.
In the config, in exorcism
config.
setup, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can't-
that could be as
Yeah,
well.
if we can't fix your exorcism thing, we'll get in touch with Katrina so we can fix it. But we need to fix that, and then you can skip. If you feel comfortable with some of them, you can just skip lessons and say, well, I don't want to do that or whatever.
Yeah, but that will prevent you from looking at other people's, right? So
That's true.
Yeah.
You can skip hello world. You can skip, gigasecond. It's going to be something simple. You can skip that. In fact, if we're not doing gigasecond meetup, you're going to have to skip and get to the next ones.
Yeah, well, there's some that we're not doing, but yeah.
Yep.
I guess I can.
I'm sorry, but at the beginning they asked if anybody had a problem installing Python.
Yeah.
And I didn't jump in at that time. On Windows in 8.164-bit, I was not able to install their latest 64-bit version.
Wow.
So at the end, I went with the February version, the stable version I get for 32-bit. Did anybody else have a problem or?
You couldn't install the stable 64-bit
No,
or the
the
latest, the
latest.
nightly 64. Yeah, that could just be a bug in the latest. But I would maybe try the stable 64-bit if such a thing exists. So.
Yeah, it does, and that works, right? Or you did 32-bit, you said.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else.
And,
Okay.
and-
Thanks so much for coming. We'll post the meetup. It'll be same place, same time.
Thanks, guys.
If a couple of you don't mind helping, just fold up the chairs. Stick around, it would help us out. We got to put them all in the back. So. And take pizza with you, throw your trash away. All those things are appreciated.
you want to stop the.